One Piece, Strengthening with Alcohol. Chapter 1. Grand Line, Navy G2 Branch. Warriors on the Sea. The sea is not suitable for the weak. Join the Navy, you can protect your family, lover, and partner. A Navy lieutenant was shouting at the den mushi, and the voice was amplified through another large den mushi hanging on the wall for everyone to hear. People in different clothes lined up in a long queue, registered at the entrance of the branch, and then took the test one by one. Vice Admiral Gumier, the number of people who signed up for the Navy this year is much less than last year. The situation at sea has been disturbing for the past few years since the Great Pirate Era began, said a Navy officer with a terrifying appearance. In front of him, a Navy officer with a big belly and wearing a red suit said with a smile, "Pen, those who can send G2 are already the talents selected by various divisions and branches. You should feel satisfied with the current number." Just looking at his appearance, it is hard to believe that this greasy Mediterranean man with white hair is actually the Commander-in-Chief of the Navy G2 branch, Vice Admiral Gumier. Behind him is T-Bone Colonel Pen, who is known as the Warship Killer. But Vice Admiral, there are more and more pirates now, and the number of sacrifices in the Navy is increasing day by day. Every time I see my subordinates bleeding and dying, I feel. Pen was hesitant to speak. The air was still for a moment. Gumier said with a stern face, "Then we can only hope this powerful newcomer can stand on the side of the Navy." The two stopped talking and looked down from the window of the branch building. The square was very lively, completely different from the depressing atmosphere in the office. Daoli 15, qualified. Daoli 20, excellent. Daoli 50. Very good. Next. A major said loudly while standing next to a complex scientific machine, with a Navy officer recording the values. This machine was developed by the scientific department to measure the Daoli value. Looking at the first half of the entire Grand Line, the G2 branch is one of the few owners. The so-called Daoli can roughly reflect a person's combat effectiveness in terms of strength. Ordinary people have a value of 5, and qualified Navy officers who have been trained have a value of 10. At this time, it is used as a threshold for screening the Navy and selecting newcomers. The next one is called Ling Bai. What is written behind it? It's like a ghost painting. Registrar. The major looked at the list and yelled at the lieutenant at the entrance of the branch with great impatience. "If you can't do this little thing well, how can you establish the dignity of the Navy in front of the newcomers?" "Major. You called me." The registrar smiled apologetically. "This guy called Ling Bai, how did you register? His handwriting is like shit." "Don't blame me." The registrar looked aggrieved, then raised his hand and pointed at a drunken young man in the crowd and said, "It was that guy. When I registered just now, I didn't say anything, but he snatched the registration book by himself. He signed his name and threw it to me." As he said that, the registrar spread his hands repeatedly, indicating that he was also helpless. "What?" Hearing this, the major smashed the registration book on the head of the registrar. "You should kick out this drunkard. This is the Navy, not a shelter for social scum. Why are all the rotten fish and shrimp sent in?" The registrar was hit and pointed to the building of the G2 branch with more grievance. "But above. You also know that people who sign up for the Navy these days." With one sentence, the furious major calmed down and sighed heavily. In fact, all the Navy knows the current situation. Roger's treasure. The Great Pirate Era. The coveted One Piece. How many people are willing to come and join the Navy under the pressure of the great wave of the times? "Hey, okay, I get it, you go back and continue to register, thank you for your hard work." The major sent the registrar away. He gathered his mood and shouted to the crowd, "Next. Ling Bai. The Navy still needs some hard labor." The major waited for a long time, and no one answered. "Ling Bai. It's your turn." The major stared at the drunken young man and shouted again. Still no one agreed. Ling Bai in the crowd seemed to be unable to hear. He was clearly at the front of the line, but his eyelids drooped, looking drowsy. Someone behind him was impatient and poked Ling Bai. "Hey!" Ling Bai woke up, opened his eyes, and said confusedly, "What's wrong?" "It's your turn." "Boy!" someone said in a deep voice. "Oh! Thank you, thank you." Ling Bai smiled naively, turned around and looked very grateful, then took out a bottle of wine from the bag on his back, and said to himself, "It's time to drink." After saying that, he picked up the wine pot and drank from it. Take a big gulp. The aroma of wine overflowed, and many people in the team subconsciously wiped their saliva. Hateful. The Major felt like his lungs were about to explode. Not only did he come drunk, but he actually dared to drink at the Navy selection site? Being so rampant, they regard the discipline, system, and majesty of the Navy as nothing. Just kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. Use it to show the dignity of the Navy. Xiao Zhou thought to himself, striding forward and angrily walking towards Ling Bai. Many people saw the delicate situation and stretched their necks, preparing to watch the show. Drinking is not allowed in the Navy. You kid. The lieutenant suddenly grabbed Ling Bai's wine bottle. I was about to rip it off and smash it into pieces. However, no matter how hard he tried, the wine bottle seemed to be stuck and motionless. The wine gurgled and slid into Ling Bai's throat. Chapter 2. Gudong. Ling Bai drank a few more sips, with a smile of enjoyment on his lips. On the other hand, the Major wanted to be cruel, but couldn't take the wine bottle from the opponent's hand, and his face couldn't help but turn red. Let me go. After all, being watched by so many people, he was still a newcomer who was about to join the Navy, and the Major couldn't help but feel embarrassed. I tried my best to pull the jug, but it still didn't move. Oh? It's interesting. On the G2 branch building, Lieutenant General Gumir was also attracted by the commotion here. Looking at the way that kid is doing everything with ease, he must have some strength. Pen had been paying attention to this area before and had already noticed it. What's his name? Listen to the voice, is it called Ling Bai? Oh? Ling Bai. Gumil tasted it carefully. Suddenly, his eyes bulged and he asked, are they the recruit eggs sent by the G8 branch? This. Pen had a question mark on his face. He didn't expect Lieutenant General Gumil to pay attention to a new recruit, so he quickly called the phone number to confirm. Yeah, okay, I know. After hanging up the phone, Pen became even more confused and asked, it was indeed sent by the G8 branch? In recent years, the G8 branch has rarely sent people over. This year, there was only one person named Ling Bai. You, how did you know? Snort. Gumil said angrily, those old boys are all smart. Why don't you keep the good ones for yourself? The ones sent here are either trash or hot potatoes. I heard that some time ago, the maintenance team of G8 was robbed, and all the wine in the warehouse was drunk, and in the end it was discovered that it was a new soldier who did it. Is there such a thing? Isn't Lieutenant General Jonathan angry? He also likes to drink. TCH. When the wine is gone, his wife is the happiest, declaring the recruit innocent in public, and not allowing Jonathan to do anything. That wife is very strict, so she can only do as she is told. Gumil said disdainfully. This. Pen was not in a position to comment on other officers, so he changed the topic and said, you mean, this guy named Ling Bai is the new recruit? But now, why are you sent here again? Because I heard that later. He drank all the cooking wine in the kitchen. Gumil said speechlessly. Pen's face also stiffened. Why do people still drink cooking wine? Does that stuff taste good? No wonder. Pen laughed dryly. As we all know, Lieutenant General Jonathan's wife, Jessica, is the chief cook of G8. Without the wine for cooking, she will definitely go berserk. This kid is probably not simple. Come on, let's go down and have a look. After that, Gumil put on his Lieutenant General's cloak, jumped out from the windowsill, and jumped from several stories high. The other side. The young master who pulled Ling Bai's wine bottle turned red. Being watched by so many people, he was riding a tiger that was hard to get off. You brat! I'll let you drink. The Major let go of the jug, pulled out his saber from his waist, and slashed at Ling Bai, intending to break the jug. Swish! Ling Bai's body swayed and he easily dodged. What are you doing? Ling Bai muttered blankly. Before the Major could react, he put his hand on the Major's chest and pushed it gently. Bang! There was a slight sonic boom, and the Major disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye, and was blown away. Not good. Pen has always been known for caring for his subordinates. He kicked his feet and took over the Major. However, before he could rejoice, he felt a huge force coming from his arm. What a terrifying force! Pen tried his best to resist, but he felt like he was being pushed by a giant warship. There was no way to resist. The two of them flew back together at a terrifying speed, hitting the test device of Daoli exactly. Boom! With a loud bang, the two finally stopped. On the test device, the value kept rising. 50. 100. 1000. 5000. When the value was stuck at 9999, it did not go up anymore. Sparks flashed on the instrument, and the Navy recording around hurriedly moved away, fearing that the instrument would explode. Click, click, click. After a series of mechanical sounds like failures, a thick black smoke rose from the tail of the machine, announcing that the machine was scrapped. In an instant, the venue became quiet. After a short silence, the crowd immediately boiled. How can this drunkard be so strong? The power is so strong that the Dao force measuring equipment can't display it. Is he still a human? No. It's a monster. How can I join the Navy with such a monster? How can I get promoted and make money in the future? The crowd wailed. Awesome by Ling Bai's strength. Gumal also found it difficult to calm down the shock in his heart. Even he had never possessed such terrible power. Jonathan, that old guy. Shameless. Gumal greeted the entire G8 branch in his heart. He finally understood the real purpose of sending a recruit who made a mistake here when he could be detained and punished. Obviously, normal means can't do anything to this recruit. Others are so young, but they have even broken through the upper limit of the Dao force test. If it weren't for the strong material of the machine itself, they might have broken through the machine. Just as Gumal was thinking. Someone tried to help the unconscious Pen and the Major, and accidentally touched the Dao force equipment. Suddenly, like the last straw that broke the camel's back, the entire equipment collapsed and turned into a pile of broken copper and iron. Damn it! Gumir slapped his head. Now, it's a dream to repair the equipment. Vice Admiral. A Navy ran over and asked quietly, now, what should we do? Chapter 3. Brother, do you have any wine? What should we do? Gumir fiddled with his hands. How could he know what to do? A drunkard with terrifying power, the first person he thought of in his mind was the Emperor of the New World, Kaido, the strongest creature of the beast pirates. The last time Kaido came to Marineford drunk and made trouble, Gumir happened to be called over, and the scene was exactly the same as now. Gumir is now just wondering why he came down just now. Simply, turn around and go back. Salute. Suddenly, a Navy lieutenant found Gumir's figure and shouted in an extremely high voice. All the Navy officers stood still after hearing the sound, their bodies straightened up, and their uniform movements formed a sharp contrast with the lined-up recruits. Swish! After a sound of legs joining together, all the Navy officers looked over here, and the other recruits who were undergoing the test also cast their eyes and gathered on Gumir. Is this Vice Admiral Gumir? I heard that the strength of each branch chief is at the monster level. Of course, if you want to resist the tide of the great pirate era, how can you do it without some hard power? The recruits did not have conscious discipline yet, and began to discuss in a low voice. And someone subconsciously muttered, I wonder if the Vice Admiral can deal with that drunkard. For a while, the crowd was quiet. The remarks about the Vice Admiral came to an abrupt end, and all that was replaced was the comparison of the strength between the Vice Admiral and Ling Bai. Although they were not familiar with the meaning of Daoli, they saw the attack just now. If they could penetrate the test equipment, wouldn't it also be at the monster level? Damn it! 3 black lines appeared on Gumir's face, and he looked at the lieutenant with resentment. He knew that it was too late to leave now. He immediately put on a stern face, raised his head, and walked towards the accident scene with a calm and confident look of being in control of the overall situation. His appearance made the Navy here feel reassured and calm. With Vice Admiral Gumir here, there will be no problem. This is the voice of many Navy. Gumir walked to the Daoli equipment, glanced at Pen and the others, and said calmly, it's just a coma. You two come and send them to the medical room. Others, collect this pile of rotten iron and let the scientific department come to recycle it. What a rotten thing, it's not worth a blow. Yes. More than a dozen Navy obeyed the order and began to act. Next, Gumir looked at Ling Bai. This is a big trouble. Logically, if such a big trouble is caused, how can these recruits be suppressed without punishment? But the problem is that everyone present may not be able to hold this kid down. If he causes a bigger mess at that time, he may lose more face. If it really doesn't work, I can only draw my sword. Gumir said to himself. Although it would be a joke if a lieutenant general drew his sword on a recruit, since it was an army, the morale of the army should be the first priority. Just as he was about to speak, Ling Bai suddenly walked towards him drunk. Then, he put a hand on Gumir's shoulder. Hey, brother! Do you have any wine? His movements were extremely casual, as if he was very familiar with Gumir. Ling Bai shook the wine bottle in his hand, turned it over, and it was empty. No, no. Gumir answered subconsciously. That's difficult. Jonathan said that the commander of G2 invited me to drink good wine, so I reluctantly agreed to get on the ship. Now the ship is still on the sea. I don't know when I can get to G2. I'm so angry. Ling Bai said in great distress. Gumir couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard it. You actually thought you were still on the ship? No. Damn Jonathan. Gumir was determined that at the next Lieutenant General's meeting, he must make Jonathan clear in person. Seeing that he couldn't find any wine to drink from Gumir, Ling Bai hung the wine pot upside down and shook it. After shaking for a long time, he still couldn't shake out a drop of wine. After sighing secretly, he said to Gumir. Brother, can you do me a favor? What is it? Gumir said cautiously. Call me when you get to G2. I'm sleepy. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Bai lay down on the ground. A second later, there was a very loud snoring, like thunder in the sky. Falling asleep? Falling asleep in seconds. Seeing Ling Bai fall asleep as if no one was around, everyone's eyes were fixed. Someone suddenly realized. Oh! I understand, it's great. These words of brother are directly related to Lieutenant General Gumir. I want to learn it too. However, before he started to pretend to be tipsy, he found that Gumir cast a warning look at him. The man's neck shrank and he retreated directly in fear. Come here. Carry this drunk to the highest level of detention room. When he wakes up, I will punish him personally. Gumir said sternly. You dare. Suddenly, Ling Bai, who was already asleep, shouted. Gumir was startled and thought Ling Bai was pretending to sleep, so his hand subconsciously touched the hilt of the sword. You dare to steal my wine? I will, I will. Ah! Who would have thought that Ling Bai would mutter to himself for a while and start saying something incomprehensible? So you are talking in your sleep? Gumir took his hand away from the hilt of the sword. And then he realized that his palms were full of sweat because of nervousness. Since he became a lieutenant general, this situation is extremely rare. Even when facing a pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions, he would not be like this. What a bad day. You guys! What are you still standing there for? Carry him away. Others, change to weightlifting test. Gumir waved his hand and arranged it. With a cloak, he went to the branch office building. Now, he needs a cup of bitter coffee to relieve his mood. By the way, think about how to deal with Ling Bai, this hot guy. Chapter 4. Divine Sea Tower Stone Wine. The G2 branch of the Navy is located in a special position. It is the terminal outpost of the first half of the Grand Line. As we all know, to the west of the Red Earth continent, the Iron Triangle of Navy Headquarters Marineford, Never Sleeping Island Judicial Island, and world's largest prison Impel Down is the core department structure of the Navy. And in the front position of the whirlpool of the three, the G2 branch of the Navy has become the most important security department. Criminals transported to Judicial Island from other naval branches or surrounding islands usually pass through the G2 branch. Therefore, the highest level prison cells on the island are undoubtedly prepared for pirates and criminals with serious crimes. The prison cells are not only well guarded, but also buried below the sea surface, directly below the Vice Admiral's office, in case of various accidents. Ling Bai didn't know how long he slept, and woke up in a daze. My head hurts. Ling Bai stroked his forehead in discomfort, and thought in his mind, system, hangover. In an instant, a sense of refreshment spread from beginning to end, and the discomfort caused by drinking a lot of alcohol disappeared. It turns out that Ling Bai is not a person in this world. Before time travel, I was just an ordinary animation lover. I was allergic to alcohol. I once passed by a wine cellar and the smell made me itchy. But unexpectedly, after accidentally traveling to the world of One Piece, he obtained a system called Bacchus. Wine will be given various effects. As long as you drink it, you will become stronger. And you can turn all kinds of things into wine. This troubled Ling Bai, who knew the dangers of the pirate world. In order to survive in the world, he just turned into an alcoholic. Although the body after rebirth is no longer allergic to alcohol, Ling Bai's drinking capacity is really not to be praised. As long as he drinks a few taels, his personality will change drastically. Originally, after receiving the baptism of quality education, he was gentle and elegant, but he would also release his arrogant and unruly side. Fortunately, the system cannot cure drunkenness, but it can cure the negative effects of drunkenness. This allows Ling Bai to drink desperately again and again. Generally speaking, people who drink too much tend to be bloated, but I have tendons. Ling Bai touched his 8-pack abs, which was a blessing he had never had in his previous life. Who would have thought that this was caused by drinking alcohol? After stretching his body, Ling Bai began to look around. I remember that I drank all the wine in the G8 branch. Then I went to the kitchen and found that cooking wine can also enhance attributes. I drank it too, and then Ling Bai began to remember. The memory of the process of drunkenness is intermittent, and sometimes it is difficult to imagine that the drunk man is actually himself. It is said that alcohol will make people's self-discipline worse. No matter how exaggerated you are when you are drunk, in fact, that is the real you. Oh, I remembered. Jonathan said that the commander of the G2 branch invited me to drink, and then I boarded the ship. Ling Bai shook his head in amusement. Obviously, Jonathan finally couldn't help but wanted to send him away, but what was even more ridiculous was that he was so tipsy that he actually believed it. But that's okay. When you go to a new place, you'll have more wine, and maybe you'll encounter some weird things that can make special wine. The next question is, where is he now? I was wearing handcuffs and shackles, and the people from G8 did not dare to do this to me. The ground never shook, which meant that I was not on the ship. The environment here is dark and airtight, but it feels like prison. Looking around, Ling Bai quickly made a judgment. G2 branch, here. Maybe something happened. Ling Bai tried his best to remember, but after boarding the ship, he was always accompanied by people from G8 drinking. I was drunk all the way, and I really have no memory of what happened after landing. Go out first and then talk. Ling Bai looked at the handcuffs and pulled them. The handcuffs didn't move at all. Hey? So strong. Ling Bai was still very confident in his own strength. Ordinary fine wine can strengthen your body if you drink it. Over the years, you can't count how many people you have drunk, so your body naturally has immeasurable strength. Even he can't stop talking about it. These handcuffs should be a good thing. Ling Bai did not continue to exert force, but called the system, turn these handcuffs into wine. After a while, the system prompt sounded. Ding, the transformation is completed, you will get a pot of Halo Stone wine, a divine product. After drinking it, you can gain the ability to breathe in water and max swimming skills. If you pour it on someone with the fruit ability, their abilities will disappear for 24 hours. There was a flash of light, and Ling Bai had a bottle of wine in his hand. Just the appearance of the wine bottle is completely different from the many types of wine I have drunk before. The vivid texture of the sea, held in your hands, is like holding the sea, infiltrating your heart and making you feel relaxed and happy. However, Ling Bai's heart was filled with turbulent waves, and he could not calm down for a long time. Halo Stone wine. It's actually a divine product. Since possessing the system, Ling Bai has turned many things into wine. Turning meat into wine gives off a fishy smell. Turn plants into wine, smell of weed. Turn mud into wine, smell of mud. Not to mention that it is difficult to swallow, the wine converted into it is mostly low grade. Drinking a pot will only improve your physique a little. As for the divine product, this is the first time Ling Bai has transformed it. Apart from the higher level holy products, it is the best wine. I don't know what this Halo Stone wine tastes like. Ling Bai swallowed. It seems that I am a little thirsty. Chapter 5. Brother? Are you here to steal the wine? Outside the prison. The person responsible for guarding Ling Bai had 2 open posts and 3 hidden posts. In the long and narrow corridor, the lights are dim. Who? A Navy man noticed someone walking in the corridor and immediately shouted. It's me. Lieutenant General Gumir. The Navy saw the incoming man clearly and saluted quickly. Gumil nodded slightly, and then asked, is that drunk brat awake? As soon as Ling Bai made a move, Gumir received a notification, dropped what he was doing, and rushed over. Until now, Gumir still hasn't figured out how to arrange Ling Bai. Since the big fuss that day, he still feels a headache when he occasionally thinks of Ling Bai. Yes. Just woke up not long ago. The Navy answered in a loud voice. The Navy had many scars on his face. He was obviously a veteran guarding the detention room. His military qualities were revealed from the bones. Although he was just a gatekeeper, this veteran was actually a colonel, and his rank was not low. What's going on in the surveillance? Gumir asked. Behind the veteran, there was a row of monitors, which monitored the situation in the room from all angles. They were all images sent by the video telephone bug in the detention room. There is nothing abnormal for the time being. Please look, he is now. The veteran said, moving sideways a step to make room for Gumir. At the same time, he subconsciously glanced at the display screen. However, when he saw the image displayed on the monitor clearly, his body froze in place like petrified. How is this possible? The old soldier shouted on the spot, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. What happened? Gumil frowned, feeling that something was wrong, and hurriedly strode forward. When he looked at the surveillance, he was also confused. Did you send wine to this kid? Gumil looked at the old soldier in disbelief. Even if Ling Bai made some noise, he couldn't break the military spirit and curry favor with the powerful. How is it possible? The old soldier's face was full of grievances. He has been loyal and dedicated for so many years, and even detained the Level-6 pirates in the city of Impel Down. Who would look down on such a little brat? Didn't you search him? Searched? Searched seriously? Swear on the honor of the Navy, absolutely seriously. Then where did he get the wine? Gumil scratched his head in annoyance. I don't know. The old soldier was also very depressed. He kept staring at Ling Bai without blinking. Just when he was saluting Gumir, he didn't know how this kid could produce a pot of wine out of thin air. Damn it! That kid is drinking. Don't let him get drunk, otherwise I don't know what kind of trouble he will cause. Gumir saw Ling Bai start to gulp down the wine again, and suddenly felt his scalp tingling. He ran out of the monitoring room quickly and ran towards the room where Ling Bai was imprisoned. The veteran saw Gumir's cautious look and immediately became alert. Assemble! Accompanied by a loud shout, the alarm around the prison room sounded. The Navy, both openly and secretly, quickly moved towards this place, armed with guns and ammunition, ready to be fully armed. Undoubtedly, they were treating Ling Bai as an extremely dangerous person. In the prison room, Ling Bai had no idea about the situation outside. If the divine sea stone wine was used to splash people, even if it could make the fruit ability user disappear for 24 hours, it would obviously be a waste. Without thinking too much, Ling Bai decided to taste it himself. Drink. When the wine enters the mouth, it is a strong impact. It rolls like waves. It hits the back of the tongue, a little spicy, and after it enters the throat, Ling Bai seems to see the sea raging in a storm. The taste is mellow, with a little fishy and salty, with the taste of the sea. Although it is just drinking, Ling Bai feels like his body is melting into the sea and his mind is free. Good wine. Ling Bai drank half a pot in one gulp and shouted happily. After years of wine tasting, this is undoubtedly the best wine he has ever tasted. It is indeed a divine product. Ha! A spicy feeling rushed up from his throat, and Ling Bai couldn't help but let out a sigh. This energy seems to be fierce. But Ling Bai enjoyed it and started drinking heavily again. Gradually, Ling Bai's eyes began to blur. Snapped. The door of the prison cell was pushed open with force, and the steel door hit the wall with a loud sound. Gumir's eyes were as big as copper bells. He pointed at Ling Bai and shouted. Put down the drink. Following his roar, dozens of marines stood neatly behind him, raising their guns and aiming at Ling Bai. Who? Who is talking? Ling Bai slowly put down the wine and prepared to turn around. But I don't know if he turned around in a hurry, staggered, tripped on the shackles, and fell directly to the ground. It was a funny scene, but no one dared to laugh. Strange. Why can't I stand still? Strange. Why are these marines all twins? Strange. The ground is shaking. Am I still on the boat? A series of self-questions, 3 consecutive question marks. Ling Bai scratched his head in confusion. Then he looked at Gumir and asked. Brother, I seem to have seen you somewhere. Do you know what's going on? What the hell? Gumil is so angry. If his analysis was correct, this brat had just taken a few sips of wine. Just a few sips, why am I so drunk? If you can't drink enough, Can you just stop drinking? I will teach you a lesson today, you brat. Gummel said, striding towards Ling Bai. Just as he took a step forward, his foot hit something hard. What the hell? Gummel was stunned. Lieutenant General. The wine bottle. The veteran swallowed, pursed his lips, and motioned for Gummel to look down. Looking in the direction, Gummel found that he was stepping on the wine bottle that Ling Bai had been drinking from just now. Just now, Ling Bai's wrestling attracted his attention. Why did the wine bottle slip to his feet? Ling Bai's face began to look unhappy. I said, brother. Are you here to steal my drink? Chapter 6. 16 years of drinking. Ling Bai stared at the wine pot. His face was a little gloomy. This time, Gummel was in a dilemma, and his momentum suddenly weakened. I'm not here to steal the wine. He only likes to drink coffee and rarely drinks alcohol. Besides, who wants to steal something from a little brat? Then why don't you move your feet away? Ling Bai shouted. Oh. Gummel shrank his feet and moved his feet away from the wine bottle angrily. Pick it up for me. Ling Bai said again. His tone was like giving an order. What did you say? Gummel's eyes widened and he thought he heard wrongly. The other navies were even more surprised. This new recruit dared to speak to the Lieutenant General in a commanding tone. Looking at the entire navy, even admirals and marshals will be somewhat polite to Lieutenant General Gummel. It's true that a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. You threw my wine on the ground and stepped on it. Shouldn't I pick it up? Ling Bai looked reasonable, as if he was standing on the highest point of morality, pointed at the wine bottle and said, pick it up, otherwise I won't be polite. You dropped this on your own. Gumir was angry. Impossible. Just because I've been drinking for 16 years, I've never dropped any wine on the ground. Don't think I'm a bit superior and just let you pirates bully me. Ling Bai raised his head, majestic and high-spirited. He looked unyielding and even more drunk than before. Since I've seen it somewhere, it's probably on the wanted pirate poster. Am I a pirate? Gumir laughed angrily. Listening to Ling Bai's nonsense, Gummel also began to reflect. Why would he want to reason with a drunken lunatic? 16 years of drinking experience. You stopped drinking milk as a baby and started drinking alcohol right away, right? Do it. Just take a breath. Gumir gave the order directly. After getting the order, the navy, which had been waiting for a long time, started the first round of shooting. Bang bang bang. A hail of bullets came towards Ling Bai, and there was no place to hide in the narrow room. However, what was beyond everyone's expectation was that as soon as he heard the order to take action, Ling Bai directly inserted his fingers into the ground, as if he had already planned to take action. Drink! With a loud roar, Ling Bai put his fingers into the ground and began to lift the floor. Dense cracks spread from the ground. Click! Click! As Ling Bai exerted his strength, cracks quickly spread throughout the house, and violent vibrations were felt throughout the G2 branch island. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Ling Bai lifted up a thick stone floor like a shield, blocking it in front of him like lightning. Dong dong dong! The bullet hit the stone floor, leaving dozens of very shallow craters, and then the bullet fell to the ground with a ping ring bang bang sound. Obviously, the materials used to make this room are also very strong. You brat! This is under the sea! Gumir cursed. He never imagined that Ling Bai would defend himself in this way. The pressure of the sea is so huge, and this prison cell is located at the deepest part. If it is damaged too much, it may cause seawater backflow. Gumir just thought of this. Puff! A very thin water column sprayed out from the wall, splashing the old soldier's face with water. Gumir's pupil shrank, and he immediately ordered. Everyone! Retreat! Although the water column is small, it is a signal. It shows that this place cannot withstand the pressure of the sea water. It will not be long before it will be flooded by the sea water. Everyone will die. As soon as the voice fell, a water column thick enough for a person sprayed out from the ground, just under the stone slab that Ling Bai had just lifted up. And Ling Bai was also washed up by the water column and soared into the air. Pirate, where are you running? Ling Bai shouted, stepping on the water column. Bang! Ling Bai directly stepped on the water column and exploded it. After using the force, his figure shot out. He punched Gumir. Damn it! Gumir had a headache. It was impossible to dodge. If he did, Ling Bai's punch would hit the wall, and might even punch through the ground. When the seawater backflows, how many of these idiots who don't train well can escape? In any case, this punch must be taken. With his observation haki, Gummel instantly pulled out the 2 sabers on his waist, and covered them with armament haki, rendering them into 2 black swords. Although he has always been humble, Gummel is a veteran Vice Admiral, and his double-sword swordsmanship is well known in the Navy. His true strength is only known by the same old generation of Navy bosses such as Garp, Crane, and Sengoku. Bitterness cross-slash. Gummel kicked his feet, jumped up, and met Ling Bai. The double swords flashed, and a black cross bloomed in the room, just facing Ling Bai's fist. But he had no intention of killing Ling Bai after all, so he used the back of the sword for this attack. The back of the sword chopped Ling Bai's fist, and still cut a cross wound, deep enough to see the bone. However, the next sound was a crisp clang, as if he was chopping on some metal. Such a hard bone! Gummir was surprised. He wanted to cripple Ling Bai's hand to make this kid behave for a while, but judging from the touch of the chop, it was not easy to chop through Ling Bai's bones even with the blade. In just a moment, Gummir judged many things. However, what he didn't expect was that Ling Bai's strength was too terrifying. The 2 sides only stalemated in the air for a moment, and an irresistible force came from the handle of the knife. Gummir just jumped up, and in the blink of an eye, he was pressed back to the ground. The 2 knives were forced back, and he used the back of the knife to chop Ling Bai, and the blade was facing him. In addition, his body was bloated, and after the collision, both knives cut into his flesh. Hateful! Gummel felt pain and regretted his decision just now. But Ling Bai's momentum did not end, and his power became more and more terrifying. Gummir felt as if he was fighting against a mountain. His feet sank into the ground, and the already torn floor completely collapsed. Seawater. There was a huge influx of people. Humph! Pirates in suits. At this time, Ling Bai spoke up, "I'm afraid you don't know yet. I am, Navy." Chapter 7. Is this guy a fish? Ling Bai finished speaking. He pointed at himself with great pride. It seems to say that justice will never be late. Gummel was almost driven crazy by Ling Bai. The hell do you even know you're in the Navy? Can't you see the big word justice on the cloak on my back? Can't you see the Navy logo so conspicuous on your shoulder? Did you just notice that I wasn't wearing a Navy uniform? In the future, I will definitely propose a strict ban on alcohol to this department. Gummel vowed secretly. The seawater rushed in. In the blink of an eye, half of their bodies were covered. We can't waste time with this guy. Anyway, with this guy's strength, he should be able to break out of a way. Gummir watched the room gradually fill with seawater and tried to leave first. Don't move. Ling Bai said solemnly. Click. Suddenly, Gummel found a pair of handcuffs on his hands. Looking again, it turned out that Ling Bai had picked up a pair of handcuffs from somewhere and put one end on his own hand and the other end on his hand. The 2 of them were tied together. You. Gummel pulled hard and found that it couldn't be pulled at all. In terms of strength, he was indeed no match for Ling Bai. At this time, Ling Bai discovered the wine bottle floating on the sea. As if he had discovered a treasure, he rushed over to pick it up regardless. Gummel only felt like a kite, with no room for resistance. He could only follow wherever Ling Bai wanted to go. For a while, he was dragged around in the water. Gotcha, baby! Ling Bai suddenly picked up the wine bottle and laughed innocently. Open your mouth and hang the wine bottle upside down. However, inside the wine pot, it was clean. Not a drop of wine. Ling Bai frowned. Gummel also frowned. Oops, this guy won't force himself to say that I spilled the wine, right? Having been wrongfully accused once, Gummel was also frightened. He finally understood the urinary nature of drunkards. Interesting. Unexpectedly, Ling Bai started to laugh dryly. I'm sorry, I wrongly blamed you. I remembered, I threw the flask myself after I finished drinking. Gummel was speechless. He really didn't want to deal with Ling Bai. Let's do this. I think your swordsmanship is pretty good, and you should use it on the right path. I'll take a step back. As long as you give me a few bottles of wine, I can personally write a letter recommending you to join the Navy. Ling Bai said, poking Gummir's forehead with a finger. He spoke so brazenly, as if he was the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. At this time, the sea water had submerged Gumir's chin. I don't want to die this way yet. Gumil had no intention of replying to Ling Bai, a drunkard. Daolu took up a stance again, trying to solve the current dilemma with moves. Although it is inconvenient to exert force in the water, if you use that move, you should be able to do it. Gumir aimed at a point on the wall and was about to make a move. Swish! In the midst of lightning and flint, Ling Bai reached out with his other hand and accurately grasped the slash he was about to make. So fast! Gumil was shocked by the speed of Ling Bai's attack. Although he was clearly in the water, Ling Bai seemed to be undisturbed at all. The speed of the shot is actually no different from that on land. In Gumil's impression, except for the fishmen and mermaids, it is impossible for other humans to ignore the resistance of water. I advise you to be careful. Ling Bai said with a sincere expression, if you attack me again, I won't give you another chance. Gumil closed his eyes in pain. He knew that Ling Bai was immersed in his own world and couldn't extricate himself. Why are you so verbose after you drink? Gumil wanted to say so. However, the sea water has completely flooded his head. In just a moment, the entire prison cell was completely submerged. Gumil held his breath and did not continue to speak. It seems that we can only wait for this kid to choke on the water before we find a way to get out. Gumil thought to himself. He studied under Zifa. When they were in the elite naval training camp, Zifa deliberately arranged for them to do underwater breath-holding training. At that time, the passing mark was 15 minutes. This is hard work, boy. How dare you talk in the water? Just wait and see. Gumil was not annoyed when he saw that Ling Bai kept talking. The more you talk, the faster you become angry. When the time comes to choke on your saliva, no matter how powerful you are, you will still have to kneel in the water. This is the principle of survival on the sea. Gumil even began to imagine that if he could rescue Ling Bai ashore and let other navies see him, it would be considered as making up for his previous slightly embarrassing behavior. However, 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. 15 minutes passed. Ling Bai was still talking non-stop. The implication was that he was just trying to persuade Gumir to give up being a pirate, be positive, have a few pots of wine and so on. He kept talking over and over again, like chanting a sutra. Even in the sea, Gumir could hear it clearly. But at this time, Gumir had no intention of listening. How is this possible? Is this kid a fish? Gumir's shock was beyond words. He used his observation to observe Ling Bai carefully, and he was definitely not a fishman or a mermaid. But since he was not an aquatic race, why could he speak so freely in the water? Damn it! Why? Gumir had countless question marks in his mind. And he observed Ling Bai's breathing and rhythm, as if he could breathe in the water. How could a person do such a thing? Are you listening to me? Ling Bai sighed impatiently, and countless bubbles came out of his mouth. He raised his hand and punched Gumil's head symbolically. However, this one blow disrupted Gumil's breath-holding rhythm, and a mouthful of seawater choked into his trachea, causing discomfort all over Gumil's body. Go up quickly. Breathe quickly. Breathe. Breathe. Gumil had only this thought in his mind. But Ling Bai remained motionless despite his struggle. The two were handcuffed together, and as long as Ling Bai had no intention of leaving, Gumil could not escape alone even if he tried his best. Wow! Gumil blew out a big bubble after holding his breath to the limit. His eyes rolled back and he drowned and passed out. Chapter 8, Only Getting Drunk to Save People. Am I going to die like this? This was Gumil's last thought before he fainted. As a navy, sacrificing by drowning would be a shame even in the underworld. Dead. Ling Bai shuddered. The drunkenness disappeared immediately. This is... Ling Bai, who was a little more sober, finally saw Gumir's navy cloak. The word justice on it made Ling Bai's mouth twitch. Why is that pot of wine so strong? A divine product, the strength is far beyond ordinary. Ling Bai's memory still stays at the moment of feeling the fragrance of the sea. Tisk tisk tisk. That taste, I really want to drink another sip. No. Now is not the time to want to drink. Ling Bai shook his head. As if he wanted to get rid of the drunkenness from his head. There is no need to feel the fragrance of the sea now, the whole person is already soaked in water. System, sober up. Ling Bai shouted in his heart. A cool feeling swept through his body, which made Ling Bai sober up a lot. At the same time, Ling Bai finally felt the coldness of the sea water, and there were bursts of pain in his hands. We have to get out quickly. Ling Bai pulled Gumier and punched a big hole in the wall. This wall is very thick, but outside the wall is the sea. Ling Bai swam out of the prison room and came to the sea. He found that he was still wearing leg shackles, which was very inconvenient. System, transform the leg shackles into wine. Ding, transformation completed, get a pot of sea stone wine, a divine product. Hearing the prompt sound of the system, Ling Bai knew that the purity of the sea stone in this pair of leg shackles was also very high. The wine pot in his hand changed the style, like a red wine bottle, and the cork was very well sealed. Go up! Ling Bai rushed in the water like an arrow. He had never learned to swim before, but various postures about moving in the water emerged from his mind. For a moment, it seemed as if he was the sea, and the sea was him. A few seconds later, Ling Bai rushed out of the sea, stirring up a large wave. On the way, Ling Bai also found that some navy were trying to swim upstream, but they didn't have time to run to the ground. Putting Gumier on a reef, Ling Bai found that he and Gumier were handcuffed. System, transform this pair of handcuffs into liquor. Ding, transformation completed, get a pot of sea stone liquor, top grade. The purity is not as high as before. Ling Bai muttered. But even if it is not a divine product, Ling Bai will not dislike it. Before, there were very few top grade liquors to drink. As long as it is liquor, he will not dislike it. Let's go save people first. Ling Bai collected the wine pot and dived into the water. Quickly turned back and dived underwater to save people. Swish swish swish. In just a few seconds, Ling Bai rescued several more Navy officers. The rescued Navy officers, before they had time to thank him, were so scared that they couldn't even speak smoothly when they saw that it was Ling Bai. Ling Bai did not say anything and continued to dive into the sea. Look, what is that? The Navy officers who were training normally on the shore did not know what was happening in the water. Instead, they were attracted by Ling Bai's rapid speed in the sea. It looks like a big fish, it's so fast. No, it's a person, look, he's wearing Navy uniforms. Hey, why do I think he looks like the recruit who made a scene before? Someone was sharp-eyed and recognized Ling Bai the moment he came out of the water. This statement immediately caused a stir among the crowd. Discussions arose. Look at him, it seems like he's saving people. Is it because of the vibration just now? Is there something wrong down there? I hope the brothers who are watching down there are okay, this guy is really fierce, I saw him save more than a dozen people. At this time, the colonel in charge of training also looked over. He obviously had more experience than the rest of the Navy. You bunch of bastards, what are you doing? Go help together. As he said this, the colonel immediately kicked a few good swimmers into the sea. The Navy nodded repeatedly, knowing that it was wrong to just watch the fun. The medical team and the communications team all got busy. At this moment, Ling Bai dived deeper and came to a stone wall. I seem to smell the smell of blood. Since drinking the sea stone wine, Ling Bai has been walking on flat ground in the sea, and even some of his perceptions are more acute than on land. He vaguely felt that someone seemed to be injured behind this stone wall. But the sea water has been flowing back for so long, it shouldn't be. Ling Bai still has some impression. Even Gumier seemed to have reached the limit of holding his breath. No matter what, blast it open first. If there is really someone alive, we can't not save him. Bang! A punch hit the wall, and the thick stone wall collapsed instantly. Behind the wall, there is a narrow space with scarce air. A navy is struggling here. It is the old soldier who is responsible for supervising Ling Bai. But because of the lack of oxygen, the old soldier's face is also red at this time. Go! Ling Bai grabbed the old soldier's leg, swam a few times, and rushed back to the sea. The old soldier felt dizzy and his body seemed to be pulled to the limit, and then he sat safely on a reef. Breathing fresh air again made the veteran feel unreal. But he still remembered that several Marines were still trapped in a room not far from him. Wait, Ling Bai. The veteran summoned up his courage and called Ling Bai. Then, he briefly informed Ling Bai of the situation of the Marines being trapped. The other Marines have run out, and there are only 3 of them left. As long as you can rescue them, I will steal the key to G2's wine warehouse and give you a jar of fine wine that I have treasured for many years. The veteran promised. It's a deal. Ling Bai was ready to rescue him, but when he heard the benefits, he nodded in agreement. After asking the veteran for the specific location, Ling Bai touched his chin. The veteran also knew the difficulty of this matter and said, those three places are very close to each other. You'd better save all three of them together. They should be approaching their limit. In that case, Ling Bai took out the divine halo stone wine that he had just transformed from his arms. I can only get drunk before I go down to save them. Chapter 9. Neptune Meteorites. What? The veteran's eyes widened. This is to save people, not a child's play. Why are you still thinking about drinking at this critical moment? The veteran looked at Ling Bai's back and felt that he was not very reliable. But at this time, no one can save them except him. The veteran beat his chest and stamped his feet. The three people trapped below were all old comrades who had served with him for many years. For a senior Navy officer, the best outcome would be to die in battle with pirates. If someone drowns in the deep sea, there won't even be a name on the monument to heroes. I think you misunderstood. Ling Bai took a sip of wine and said with a confident smile, when I'm tipsy, I'm stronger than usual. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Bai disappeared from the sight of the veteran. There was no sign, no movement. A small splash appeared on the water surface, telling the veteran that Ling Bai had entered the water. Hopefully he's really just tipsy. The veteran prayed secretly. Pray for his three comrades. Toot toot. Suddenly, a piercing siren sounded on the island. When the veteran heard the rhythm, he was shocked. How could it be possible, at this time? At the same time, all radio telephones on the island began to deliver announcements. Warning! Warning! There is a Sea King approaching. Repeat it again. There is a Sea King approaching. All navies, please come ashore immediately. Come ashore immediately. The radio played over and over again, and the siren sounded extremely harsh. In the distance, a white streak cut through the sea and approached G2 at an exaggerated speed. The sea began to become unstable. The water rolled and the waves crashed. Run away! It's the Neptune type. Damn it, were you attracted here by the smell of blood in the water? Mom, I'm going to be eaten. I don't want to die yet. Help! The Navy swam quickly to the shore. Everyone is wondering what day it is today. Why, so unlucky? There was too much movement under the water, attracting the attention of the Sea Kings. Now we are in trouble. Veterans find it extremely difficult. Neptunes are the most powerful creatures in the world's oceans. They are extremely ferocious. They not only have huge bodies, but also have the same intelligence as humans. In the entire G2, only Lieutenant General Gumir and Colonel Pen have enough power to fight against the Neptune class. But now, both of them are in a coma. Even if the remaining navy can repel the Sea Kings, there will definitely be casualties. By the way, maybe he... The veteran was just thinking. Suddenly, the water exploded. Like torpedoes, the three Marines broke out of the water and drew a graceful arc in the air. It's them. The veteran stood up excitedly. So fast. The veteran is very familiar with underground structures. From entering the water to rescuing people, Ling Bai's swimming speed is simply amazing. Etc. The veteran suddenly realized something was wrong. The direction in which the three Marines were flying seemed. Bang! In the veteran's field of vision, more than half of the sea surface exploded. Pillars of water rose into the sky, covering the sky and the sun. Then, a huge head poked out, resembling both a fish and a lion. Staring at the three people flying in the air with extremely intelligent eyes, he opened his bloody mouth. No! The veteran turned pale with fright. The other Marines also stared at the Neptune type, their jaws almost dropped to the ground. Such volume! He is clearly a 100-meter level Neptune type. Compared with the Sea King class, 3 Marines are simply not enough to fill the gap between teeth. At the critical moment, a figure burst out of the water again. Its speed was so outrageous that only a few people in the Navy who had awakened to the haki sensed it. Don't even think about taking away my drinking ticket. Ling Bai glared at Neptune like a sworn enemy. At the moment when everyone still looked scared, he punched the Sea King creature in the abdomen. Boom! The 100-meter level Neptune class was directly blasted into the air. The huge body firmly attracted everyone's attention. It took a while before anyone came back to their senses. It's Ling Bai. He actually blasted the 100-meter level Sea King type away. It is indeed a monster. Only a monster can fight against a monster. The Navy watched the Sea Kings fly upward. Fly, fly. I don't know how long it took to fly. The weight of the 100-meter class Neptune class is difficult to estimate. What level of strength is required to hit such a behemoth to that height with one punch? Is this really a 100-meter level? It feels so unreal to have a navy. Now it seems that the Sea King is already very small. Come on, brother, your brother has been rescued. Don't forget about the wine. Ling Bai dragged the 3 unconscious marines and personally delivered them to the veterans. Oh. The old soldier only sees the Neptune species flying higher and higher. It seems that those who were blown away by Ling Bai were not the Neptunes, but also the worldview of this veteran. Gradually, the flying speed of the Neptune species slowed down and began to fall downward. On the ground, many Navy actually breathed a sigh of relief. Oops, finally ready to fall. I thought this Sea King was going to transform into a flying bird. Ha ha ha. Ordinary birds can't fly to his height. I guess many raptors were frightened. The sailors chatted and laughed. Many people made jokes. Such strange news can find a place even in world news newspapers. Look. It's on fire. I'll go, it's so fierce, I won't even save firewood. You can eat barbecue directly after you drop it. It's so delicious. However, as soon as this last sentence came out, the expressions of all the Navy froze at the same time. The original smiling look was directly replaced by the fear rising deep in his heart. Drop down. Where did it fall? Gudong. Someone swallowed. Fall into the sea. Be sure to fall into the sea. But sometimes, things are just different than what people expect. Warning. Warning. Impact warning. Estimated impact location, G2 office building. Repeat, the estimated impact location is the G2 office building. Please evacuate quickly, please evacuate quickly. The warning sound was harsher than before, and the frequency was more rapid. The Navy quickly swarmed out of the G2 office building like ants, and the Navy on the entire island ran for their lives like crazy. In everyone's sight, the meteorite formed by the 100-meter level Neptune. Getting bigger. Chapter 10. No one can touch my wine. Ruined. G2 is finished. God, please bring a miracle. There was a cry among the Navy. The 100-meter level Neptune class struck down like a meteorite. Not only did it destroy the G2 office building, I'm afraid, its power would destroy even half of the island. To rebuild a G2 will undoubtedly consume a lot of financial, manpower and material resources. Not to mention that there is a lot of valuable information on the island, which is an inestimable asset loss. Hey! Brother! I have a question for you. Ling Bai is still pestering the veteran. On the surface, he was indeed tipsy. But when I was drinking just now, I accidentally took a few too many sips. Hey! Hey! The veteran's mind went blank, and he could still hear Ling Bai's words. You promised to give me wine. No, you can't keep your promise. Ling Bai shook the veteran. His expression was aggrieved, like a child whose promise was not fulfilled. Liquor. The veterans wanted to cry. When is it? G2 is gone, but you still care about your wine. A handful of bitter tears rolled in the eyes of the veteran. Why are you still crying? Seeing that shaking the veteran had no effect, Ling Bai stood up in frustration. Curling his lips, he discovered Gummel who was unconscious on the rocks next to him. Suddenly, Ling Bai's eyes showed a cunning light. You want to cheat on drinking, right? Humph. I have a lot of ideas. Ling Bai kicked off his feet and jumped to Gummel's side. Then, several big mouths slapped Gummel on the face. Wake up! Ling Bai yelled. Snapped. Snapped. There were deep palm prints on the left and right sides of Gummel's face. Snapped. There was another crisp sound, and Gummel opened his eyes weakly. This is... Gummel was still a little confused. Soon, memories came flooding back, and Gummel's eyes bulged. Still alive. Ahem. Gummel choked a few times and coughed out the sea water from his lungs. Turning around, a look of joy appeared on his face. Ah! The familiar fishy salty sea breeze. The familiar G2 branch. Familiar hapless child. Familiar meteorites. Etc. Where did the meteorite come from? Gumir screamed. Open your eyes wide, as if you are seeing the end of the world. From his perspective, he could tell at a glance that the meteorite would eventually hit his office. He hadn't even had time to read the confidential documents that had just been delivered to his desk. Me. Gummel was too frightened. He couldn't catch a breath and passed out again. Hey! Old man! Why did you faint again and I haven't spoken yet? Ling Bai shouted in disbelief. However, no matter how hard he slapped Gumir, the latter showed no sign of waking up. Facing the meteorite, everyone was in despair. With such a natural and man-made disaster, it seems that all we can do is wait for the tragic ending of the 100-meter level Neptune falling to the ground. Really? Is this the end? Suddenly, a thunder flashed in the veteran's mind. Sees a glimmer of possibility in despair. Immediately, the veteran seemed to be talking to himself, but he deliberately spoke loudly and said, "Oops. The wine warehouse is under the office building, and those fine wines will definitely be destroyed." Before he finished speaking, Ling Bai suddenly grabbed the veteran's sleeve. "What did you say? Where is the wine warehouse?" "There. There." The veteran was lifted up. With a difficult finger, he aimed at the office building. Ling Bai turned around suddenly. The meteorite that was about to hit the office building was reflected in his slightly drunk pupils. "OMG!" Ling Bai shouted at the top of his lungs. The veteran was so close that his ears hurt from the shock. The hands holding his clothes loosened, and Ling Bai disappeared from his eyes. But the veteran ignored the discomfort in his ears and stared at the meteorite with his eyes. Can it be done? Ling Bai's strength. He can't see through it. But it is a meteorite after all. Even with some caution, is it really possible? Boom! A circle of air waves visible to the naked eye exploded beneath the meteorite, and the flames surrounding the meteorite were immediately extinguished. In terms of appearance, the outline of a 100-meter level Neptune can be vaguely seen. And underneath that behemoth, a small navy man was holding back all the astonishing power with his bare hands. The Neptune type, which was plummeting down, suddenly stopped. From extreme speed to stillness, it only takes a moment. The seemingly small body can hold up the entire sky. Like Superman. It's him again. That new recruit. This monster. Doesn't want to die. Damn it. Why do I want to cry? Why do even these new recruits have the courage to fight? Many people in the Navy were shocked by Ling Bai's heroic gesture. Everyone is afraid of something like that falling from that height and accepts their fate. Only him. Unyielding, unyielding. Take decisive action. In a sense, it directly saved the entire G2 branch. He is a hero. The Navy shouted loudly. Hero. Definitely a hero. Whether it's a pirate or a navy, this perfect combination of strength and charisma is enough to conquer anyone. However, at this moment, Ling Bai's roar came from the distance. In this world, no one can touch my wine. Even if you are a meteorite. No way. Ling Bai's hands were all burned, but he didn't care at all. His eyes were red, drunkenness and anger mixed together. He shouted and pushed, and the Sea King was thrown out of the air. The direction of the throw happened to be the largest square on the island. Just now. There are all the Navy taking refuge there. Chapter 11. The Divine Neptune Wine. Why the hell are you throwing it at us? Don't you have any brains? Can't you throw it into such a big sea? You brat, you did it on purpose. Are you a spy lurking in from the pirates? He had been praising Ling Bai's navy before, but now he was cursing. What a touch! What tears! What a hero! When Ling Bai yelled and threw the Sea King type over, his heroic persona had already collapsed. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's all about the wine, this damn drunkard. The Navy kept talking, but their feet were not slow at all. The square suddenly became full of birds and beasts, each one running faster than the other. You bastards, you usually run slowly during training, but now you are showing your real speed while running for your life. A colonel was holding a pointer in his hand. He stared at the sailors running in front of him. They didn't look like the lazy idiots at ordinary times. Boom! With a loud bang, the dust settled. However, the 100-meter class Sea King was still too huge. After falling, dozens of sailors were still directly pressed underneath. Quick! Save people! The other sailors who escaped the disaster approached the Sea King again. Swish! Ling Bai fell from the air and stepped on the head of the Sea King. With a wave of his hand, he signaled everyone not to get close. Listen to me. The wine is mine. It's all mine. No one is allowed to grab it. This voice made many sailors twitch their mouths. Drunkard, get out of the way. Who has time to deal with you? Open your eyes and see clearly, there is no wine here. Don't hinder us, there are dozens of brothers buried below. The sailors were indignant. Who said there is no wine? Isn't this wine? Ling Bai pointed at the Sea King as a matter of course. What's even more infuriating is that the way he looked at the other marines was as if they were a bunch of idiots. Instantly, everyone could feel Ling Bai's contemptuous eyes. From time to time, someone stood up and started to spray Ling Bai. Asshole! You can't tell the difference between wine and meat, and you dare to mock us, you! A navy was spraying, and suddenly, his throat seemed to be stuck with a fishbone, and the subsequent long speech was all blocked. Originally standing like a small mountain in the 100-meter level Sea King, in full view of the public, it turned into a pot of wine in Ling Bai's hand. What? The crowd kept exclaiming. Ding! The transformation is completed, and a pot of Sea King wine is obtained. It is a divine product. After drinking, it can activate the potential of the body, has a strong healing effect, and can greatly enhance the body. Blind people! I said it's wine. Ling Bai held the wine pot, and the saliva on his mouth flowed down like a waterfall. Since it has been transformed into a divine product, what is there to hesitate? Gulp. Ling Bai immediately took a gulp. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten the navy present. When the wine entered his mouth, the aroma of wine and meat exploded in his taste buds and filled his mouth. It was just drinking, but it was like eating meat and drinking strong liquor at the same time. At the same time, the wounds caused by Gumir's cuts and the burns caused by forcibly intercepting the meteorite all healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a sip of wine, all the wounds disappeared. I understand. Meat must be burned before it is suitable for brewing wine. Ling Bai began to utter some illogical words. The other navy officers didn't understand what Ling Bai was saying at all. Meat can also be used to brew wine. Some people felt that common sense was overturned. Are you drunk too? This guy is obviously a capable person. No. Impossible. I saw him swimming in the sea with my own eyes, he is definitely not a capable person. How can such a large sea king be turned into wine if you didn't eat a devil fruit? Above the sea, there is a cursed fruit that allows the eater to gain unimaginable superhuman power, but is also spurned by the sea and becomes a landlubber who can't swim for life. The navy present had heard about the devil fruit to some extent. When the 100-meter class Sea King turned into wine, many people believed that Ling Bai was a person with special abilities, but in this case, swimming in the sea became very contradictory. The navy looked at Ling Bai and felt that this drunkard was unfathomable. He must be a person with special abilities, but he used some unknown method to swim. No, the sea is the grave of people with special abilities. This kid might know magic and tease us on purpose. The navy was divided into two factions in the field, arguing with each other. No one could convince anyone. Boom! Suddenly, Ling Bai fell to the ground. The deafening snoring attracted the attention of all the navy again. Why did he fall asleep again and again? How much did he drink? He was drunk. He can't drink well, but he likes to drink so much. He is simply a disaster. Looking at Ling Bai, mocking voices came one after another. Shut up! You are not strong, but you are good at talking. At this time, Gumel's voice came. Lieutenant General. The navy was silent and quickly made way. The old soldier supported Gumir and walked slowly step by step. This kid. Gumir looked at the sleeping Ling Bai with mixed feelings in his heart. Too many things happened today, even his heart couldn't bear it. Luckily G2 is still here, otherwise he really doesn't know what to do with his life in the future. Lieutenant General, look, Ling Bai's injuries are all healed. The old soldier was still calm and soon found the clues. Hey! After being reminded, Gumir also grabbed Ling Bai's hand to check. He clearly remembered that he left a deep scar on Ling Bai's hand with the back of the knife. But now, there is not even a trace. How is this possible? Gumir narrowed his eyes and observed repeatedly. The result was that not only the hand, but also the rest of the place had no scratches. Is it because of this pot of wine? Gumir gently picked up the wine pot beside Ling Bai. The wine pot was empty and was drunk by Ling Bai. Putting his nose close to smell it, Gumel suddenly saw the intoxicating scene of a pool of wine and a forest of meat. What a nice smell! Gumel's body trembled, salivating. Subconsciously, He hung the wine pot upside down and wanted to drink a few sips of wine. But after shaking for a long time, there was not a drop. Lieutenant General. The old soldier was shocked. The look he gave the wine pot changed completely. What kind of wine could make Gummel, who usually didn't like drinking, do this? But the scene he saw next surprised him even more. Just smelling the wine, Gummel's wounds actually began to heal. Chapter 12. Rinse the pot of wine? Dishwashing water? Lieutenant General. You. The old soldier pointed at Gummel and couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time. The knife wound in front of Gummel was healing. Even the palm print on his face from Ling Bai was fading. Soon, Gumier also discovered the abnormality of his body. He looked at the old soldier and saw the shock in each other's eyes. What kind of wine is this? Gummel's hand holding the wine bottle was shaking. Is this wine? It feels like a magic medicine. The old soldier's breathing became increasingly rapid. No, it's definitely wine, I feel. Gummel stroked his forehead. It's very strong, a little bit intoxicating. How could it be? The old soldier hurried over to support Gummel. Is your body too weak? Maybe. But I have an idea. Gummel asked the old soldier to put his ear close to him and explain in detail. Yet. Okay. Yet. The old soldier looked at Gummel strangely. The face of his own Lieutenant General did have some redness from drinking. Lieutenant General Gummel? Are you drunk? I haven't even drunk the wine yet. Get out! Gummel shouted coldly. After scolding, he put the wine bottle in front of his nose and sniffed it hard. It smells so good. The expression on his face gradually began to become happy. The old soldier looked at Gummel strangely. This silly smile looked just like after a meal. Big brother? What did the Lieutenant General say to you? A colonel knew the old soldier and knew that he was a senior, so he came over and asked in a low voice. Gummel's performance also aroused his doubts. The old soldier pondered for a moment, but was still ready to follow the order. Everyone! Listen to the order! The old soldier said sternly. The tone was sonorous and powerful. The military's majesty was immediately different. This old soldier seemed to have changed into a different person. The Navy who were chatting stood up straight as a conditioned reflex when they heard it. The standard Navy salute. First Squadron. Bring all the injured on the scene here. Arrange them neatly according to the injuries. Medical team, bring all the injured from your place here. Put them away. The rest of the squadrons. All go to prepare the warehouse and bring all the wine here. After the order was given, the Navy were all confused. What is this for? Hey! Gummel's unhappy eyes swept over, making everyone's scalp numb. Yes. Since it was an order from the superior, it must be executed unconditionally. This is what a soldier should be like. The Navy moved and began to act according to the order. Lieutenant General? What do you want to do? The old soldier was still puzzled. Gumier smiled meaningfully and pointed to the empty wine pot. What do you think of Ling Bai's wine? It's amazing. I also smell something. The wounds on my body don't hurt anymore. This must be a magic wine. I'm going to rinse this pot with other wine. Gumier said with a proud look on his face. As if what he just said was an extremely ingenious plan. Rinse. Rinse the pot. The old soldier's neck shrank. This is what Ling Bai drank, and there is saliva on it. Isn't it disgusting? If my analysis is correct, the wine after rinsing must have the effect of healing injuries. Seeing Gumier's complacent look, the old soldier looked embarrassed. Just because of this, you asked us to move everything here. Yes. What's the problem? Don't you want to test it first? Test. Gummel touched his chin, and the flesh on his chubby face trembled. Yes. It seems that we should test it. You are drunk. I'm not drinking. You are really drunk. The old soldier slapped his forehead hard, speechless. In the past, Gummel was famous in the Navy for his three characteristics of prudence, wisdom, and swordsmanship. If something went wrong, the old Vice Admiral would probably lose face. It's okay. It will definitely work. Gummel said firmly. Inexplicably optimistic. Report. Everything is ready, please give instructions. A colonel came to report. Very good. Let the plan begin. Under Gummel's command, all the wine was poured into a large container. The square was filled with the aroma of wine. Didn't the Vice Admiral always say that alcohol should be banned? Why did he mix all the alcohol? Who knows? Why do we privates need to explain what the higher UPS are doing? I really don't understand, but this alcohol smells really good. Being in the Navy, the quality of things is good. The sailors were talking, greedily sucking the aroma of alcohol in the air. Report. All the alcohol has been poured in. Good. Gummel jumped up and jumped to the side of the container. Then, in front of everyone, he started to rinse the pot with alcohol. The alcohol was poured into a large bowl. Come on. Let Pen and the others drink first. Pen and the lieutenant colonel, who had smashed out 9,999 DAO power a few days ago, were seriously injured and had several broken bones. They were still lying there and dared not move. Yes. The old soldier took the bowl, but he still had some resistance in his heart. He fed Pen a little bit in the stunned eyes of the rest of the Navy. After feeding a few mouthfuls, Pen got strength from nowhere and snatched it away. What kind of wine is this? How can it taste so good? The Navy's eyes widened even more. Delicious? This is obviously dishwater. However, the next scene completely stunned everyone. Pen drank all the wine and threw the bowl. He stood up with a somersault, and with a loud shout, all the bandages wrapped around his body broke. Looking at his body again, there was no injury at all. I feel full of strength in my body. Pen's face flushed, and he started punching the air. It seemed that he wanted to vent the energy in his body. Ha 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 ha. You see, I knew it would work. Gumier laughed and started to rinse the pot again. Occasionally, he would secretly drink a few sips. The wine in the pot was quickly drunk by many wounded. Even the seriously injured who were knocked unconscious by the Sea King soon jumped up drunk, looking lively. During the whole process, some Navy officers kept their mouths shut. Can you cure diseases in this way? It's really amazing. I want to drink a few sips too. Chapter 13. Zifa and Crane. Later, Gumier was too lazy to rinse. He threw the wine jug directly into the large container of wine, as if he had thrown down some magical medicine. The conditions of many injured Marines improved, and they began their own performances with drunken hiccups. Ling Bai was confused. What is this smell? So familiar. His consciousness was already hazy, but his body was very honest. Ling Bai didn't even need to open his eyes, and he kept close to his nose and the wine. He moved and crawled to the container. It's wine. Ling Bai opened his eyes a little and looked at the wine that was still half full in the container. He suddenly became energetic. System. Identify, identify. Ling Bai thought to himself. Ding, identification completed. Sea King wine, low grade. Drinking it can activate physical potential, heal injuries, and strengthen the body. Sea King wine. Ling Bai looked around with a dazed look and caught a glimpse of the wine pot at the bottom. Oh! It turns out to be blended wine. Isn't this the divine wine he drank just now? But he was able to blend such a large jar of low-grade wine, could it be that he didn't drink it all? Sin. How could there be leftover wine? I'm here to atone for my sins. With a splash, Ling Bai fell directly into the container. The container was very large, and the remaining half-tank of wine directly submerged Ling Bai. But Ling Bai had the ability to breathe underwater, which did not affect his breathing. Soaking in the wine, he smiled foolishly and drank happily. The wine level dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye, and every cell in Ling Bai's body was fully nourished by the wine. Hurry up and pick that kid up for me. Didn't I ask you to guard Ling Bai? Why did you let this kid get in? If he drowns, it will be a loss for the Navy and the world. Who of you can afford the responsibility? Gummel was drunk at this time, and he obviously drank a lot. The Navy he scolded was also drunk, and he might have forgotten the order to watch Ling Bai. Everyone worked together to lift Ling Bai out. Not dead, still breathing. Just soaked. Drinking with every pore of the body, what a high state. Are you drunk? What nonsense are you talking about? It's clear that you have merged with the wine. Except for the first person, the rest of the people's words were floating. Usually, they dared not speak nonsense due to military discipline, but now they are talking more nonsense than each other. Leaving Ling Bai aside, everyone started drinking again. There were even people in the kitchen who prepared the side dishes. It seemed that a banquet had begun on the square. Pulu pulu pulu. Gumul. Den den mushi. A signalman yelled. Bang. Gumul knocked the signalman unconscious with a punch. Smelly boy, did you call me by my name? You have no respect for me. Gumul took the den den mushi with a curse, but did not forget to take another sip of wine. Hello? Who's looking for me? Gumul. It's me. Me? Ha ha ha, the person on the other end of the den den mushi laughed. I've gotten older, and my temper has gotten worse. Who are you? How dare you talk to me like that? Gumul shouted at the den den mushi. I'm Zifa. What's wrong with Zifa? Zifa is so great? I graduated a long time ago. After saying that, Gumul actually hung up. On the other side of the den den mushi, Zifa's smile froze on his face after the call was hung up. He held the den den mushi in his hand and didn't put it down for a long time. He came over and took the den den mushi from Zifa's hand. This is a den den mushi specially used by the Navy. It has strong noetic waves and is very expensive. He whispered. But he dared to hang up on me. Zifa clenched his fists tightly. The corners of his mouth curled up, and his smile gradually became cruel. Maybe I pressed the wrong button. Try calling again. He dialed the number for Zifa. Pulu 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 pulu. The call was connected. Hello. Gumul. Zifa tried to speak in a calm tone. Zaful? Why is it you again? Are you getting old and confused? I've already graduated. I'm drinking now, I don't have time to talk to you, call my secretary if you have anything. Zaful didn't have time to say a word, and Gumul said a series of things to himself. Hang up. Bang. Zaful threw the den den mushi to the ground, and it exploded. This brat. Didn't I leave a deep impression on him? Veins popped out on Zifa's forehead. Calm down. Tsuru put his hand on Zifa's back. The wash fruit ability was activated, washing away the impetuousness, the anger, and the cruel thoughts. Then Tsuru shook his hand and hung Zifa up. Gumul was one of your earliest students, and he was famous for his stability. That's why he was sent to guard G2. There must be a reason for the abnormality. Tsuru said to Zifa calmly, holding his hand. Zaful was forced to calm down, and he also realized that something was wrong. That's right. I still know the character of that kid. And he even forgot why I called. You mean he personally recommended a new Navy recruit to you? I remember that new recruit's name was Ling Bai. Oh? You know. Zeph looked at he. He took out a stack of information from somewhere, and said as he read it. Ling Bai, unknown background, from the East Blue Sea, joined the Navy at the age of 14, violated discipline 118 times, received 15 major warnings, and was demoted 4 times. At the age of 16, due to his excellent combat power, he was selected as an elite by the branch to enter the Grand Line and sent to the Navy G8 branch. 1 month later, he drank all the wine of the entire branch and was coaxed by Jonathan to board the recruit ship to G2. Arrived at G2 5 days ago, broke through the upper limit of the Deo Force equipment test, and was imprisoned in the highest level detention room by Gumier. He read the last word and threw the information on the table. He made a simple comment. He is a headache. Then, he added another sentence. Alcoholism. Chapter 14, A Cigarette and a Wine. How do you know so much? Zephyr broke free from the clothes drying rack and picked up the information to read for himself. The investigation was extremely detailed, and Ling Bai's life and deeds after joining the Navy were recorded clearly. I will seriously investigate every newcomer who may join the elite Navy training camp, in order to ensure the purity of the blood. He said calmly. After all, the Navy who successfully graduated from the elite Navy training camp is at least a major general. There will even be top combat forces such as Sakaski, Borsellino, and Kuzan who can take on great responsibilities in the future. Such an important role has a far-reaching impact on the entire Navy, and he will not allow any mistakes. My student, I know my limits. Crane, your hand is too long. Zephyr said, closed the information, and said in a deep voice, is this what Kong meant? Or what Sengoku meant? Now, Kong is still the Admiral of the Navy, but there have been rumors that the world government wants to transfer Kong to be the Commander-in-Chief of the entire army. The position of the Admiral of the Navy headquarters will be vacant sooner or later. And in the current Navy, there are only 3 people who have enough prestige to be the Admiral. They are him, Garp and Sengoku. Now most of the Vice Admirals in the Navy have received guidance from Zephyr. With this relationship, Zephyr is very popular. As for Garp, due to his fame in the Valley of the Gods incident, he is chasing the Pirate King Roger all over the world. No one will be dissatisfied with such a well-known Navy hero becoming the Admiral. You think too much, Zephyr. Now I am the Chief of Staff of the Navy, the burden is getting heavier, and there are more and more things. I just don't want anything to go wrong in the Navy, so that I have to worry about it. Crane shook his head, indicating that he was not assigned by anyone. Then, he added another sentence. Although, I think the position of the Navy Admiral is more suitable for a wise character to sit. The current meaning clearly shows that Crane is more inclined to Sengoku. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became subtle. Who would have thought that when Crane said this, Zephyr laughed instead. Ha 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 ha, after all these years, you really are not polite to me at all. Don't worry, I'm not like the Warring States period, who always wanted to climb higher. If I hadn't been trying to persuade him to stay, I would have resigned. I can teach more powerful students and have more combat power to deal with pirates, that's what I'm thinking now. Zifa waved his hands and grinned. Talk about old things and express your position to he. Crane spoke bluntly and said. Actually, we old guys all know that you and Garp have different ideas than Sora, so it is impossible for you to become a Navy Marshal. Depending on where you are, what you see is different. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the next Marshal of the Navy is none other than Sengoku. Let's talk about Ling Bai. Zifa didn't want to get too entangled in the Marshal's issue, so he changed the topic and said, from what you just said, Gumel's drunkenness may have something to do with this kid. It's all related to alcohol, it's hard to tell. But no matter what the truth is, you will definitely go there in person. Crane knows Zifa very well. Zifa personally tests the potential of every Marine before becoming his student. Trash, not even qualified to be guided by him. That's true. In fact, the reason Zifa called Gumir was to inform him and ask Gumel to send Ling Bai to the Navy headquarters. But under the current situation, Zifa is more willing to go to G2 in person. Some time ago, you seem to have taken in a smoker, right? He suddenly said. Does Smoker know? The information is very good. I don't mean anything else, but with a cigarette and a drink, don't let the Navy atmosphere get ruined. I have my own way of teaching. You don't need to worry about this aspect. Recently, haven't you been catching a pirate who uses string? You should pay more attention to that aspect. Snort. Hearing Zifa mention Doflamingo, he didn't look good either. Slightly better in words, Zifa raised the corner of his mouth and walked away. After Zifa left, he took out a phone bug from his arms. Warring States, you heard Zifa's attitude, right? Thank you, he. I promised to give you information about Doflamingo, and I will never break my promise. But next, I need you to pay more attention to me. Warring States? Don't go too far. Crane's tone began to be unkind. Crane, don't you support me too? But some things still have a bottom line. Besides, Zifa has made his attitude clear. No one will compete with you for the position of Marshal. I'm completely relieved about Garp, but Zifa still has expectations for the Navy. The position of Marshal will give him a chance to show off his talents. I can't let down my guard. On the phone bug side, Sengoku was very cautious. Regarding the position of Marshal, he showed that he was destined to win. Why? He knew that Senguo was very thoughtful and believed in certain things that no one could dissuade. Finally, he gave me some advice and said, you should focus more on dealing with pirates. After saying that, he hung up the phone and rubbed his temples with a headache. There is no role in the Navy that makes people worry-free. Immediately, looking at the information about Ling Bai on the table. This time, Crane's head hurt even more. For some people, if they are released to become pirates, they are a disaster. If they are taken in to become Navy, they are still a disaster. Rubbing his temples again, he felt very tired. But apart from drinking and causing trouble, this kid has also made several great achievements and has a good temper. He should be able to come in handy in the future. In comparison, it is always better to be a Navy. Easy to control. He sighed and left the room. Chapter 15. Binks's Wine. G2 Branch. The banquet in the square became more and more grand. After the wine in the warehouse was finished, some sailors took out the wine they had secretly hidden. It's great. I haven't had such a fun drink in a long time. We usually have strict military discipline, but we can only drink bitter coffee every day, and our brows are almost twisted together. Hey, it's Lieutenant General Gummel who is taking the lead in drinking anyway. If the sky falls, there will be someone tall to hold it up. What are you and I afraid of? A few sailors put their arms around each other and gathered together in twos and threes to chat. Looking at the entire history of the G2 branch, it is an unprecedented indulgence. Big brother? Do you still have wine here? A senior officer saw a jar of aged wine in the veteran's hand and stretched out his hand. However, the veteran turned around and kicked the colonel far away. Get out! This is not something for you to drink. TCH. Stingy. Colonel curled his lips and started to go to other places to ask for drinks. The veteran guarded the wine in his arms all the way until he was in front of Ling Bai. Before, Ling Bai woke up to drink and fell asleep after drinking. He had done it several times. Now he was sitting among a pile of empty wine bottles, half asleep and half awake. The veteran stood in front of Ling Bai and said solemnly, Ling Bai, this is the key to the wine warehouse, I give it to you, but the wine warehouse is out of wine. Then, this is a fine wine that I have treasured for 30 years. I originally planned to give it to my wife who drank it when she was a child, but I probably won't be able to drink it in the future. I have fulfilled all the conditions I promised you. Even though you caused a lot of trouble, I still want to thank you for saving me. After experiencing so many shocks, there were no casualties in the entire G2 branch, and the veterans were very satisfied. And looking at the looks of those gangsters, they were extremely happy. Maybe, it's not such a bad thing. Putting down the wine in his hand, the veteran turned around and wanted to leave. Today, he was the only one who didn't drink. Snapped. A hand grabbed the veteran. Brother, sit down and drink together. Ling Bai squinted his eyes and muttered. You're awake. Have I slept? Well, I don't remember. But I heard everything you said just now. Ling Bai held the wine brought by the veteran and rarely drank it in a hurry. Rotate the wine jar and slowly appreciate the traces of time on the wine jar. Are you pretending to be drunk? The veteran asked. He. When you are drunk with wine, you will not be drunk, when you are drunk, you will not be drunk. I am a drinker, not a slave to alcohol. After saying that, Ling Bai finally found the location of the bottle mouth among the mottled marks. It's the wine from before the Great Pirate era. It's also my first time to drink it, brother, let's come together. Ling Bai invited the veterans to enjoy the wine together. At the same time, I mentally let the system identify it. Ding, the appraisal is complete. Binks's wine is a divine product. After drinking it, your hearing will be enhanced and your musical ability will be maximized. Ding, the host has discovered the solitary grade fine wine and will be rewarded with a black knife, named Minghong. Ling Bai just made a casual appraisal and didn't hold out much hope. At most, I just want to see if I can drink the wine. But Ling Bai never dreamed that this would be the result. Moreover, the system's reward mechanism was also activated, and you got a black knife Minghong. An orphan. What the heck, he's actually an orphan. Ling Bai's jaw almost dropped to the floor, and the hand holding the wine kept shaking. In other words, in today's world, there is only one jar of this wine. I don't know if it's a unique product, but the pirate who brewed this wine was indeed an amazing historical figure. Even the wine itself was adapted into a barcarolle and sung in the New World, symbolizing blessings to partners. Let Binks's wine be delivered to you. Like the sea breeze. Ride the wind and waves. The veteran hummed a tune. It was a familiar melody, and all the navy who heard the song started singing along. This song Binks's wine is indeed a classic among classics. Of course I've heard of it. Before Ling Bai traveled through time, he was a fan of One Piece. This song is Brook's representative song, and he can also hum a few lines along with it. Speaking of which, Binks has been dead for a long time. The last one who could perform this song vividly, I think it was called the Rumba Pirates, it was decades ago. I didn't expect that I could find a common topic with you, so let's sit down and have a drink. The veteran smiled and prepared to sit down. No. This is my wine. No one is allowed to steal it. Ling Bai's face turned faster than flipping through a book, and he started yelling. Hey? No, this, you, I. The old soldier froze as if he were petrified. It took a long time to organize the words and said to Ling Bai, "Didn't you invite me to drink together?" "Did I say that? When? Where's the evidence? Are you drunk?" Ling Bai held on to the wine and refused to let go, protecting him like a treasure. "You brat! Fortunately, I was moved by you just now. What kind of wine can make people drunk but not drunk, and people can be drunk but not drunk? Also, I am a drinker, not a slave to alcohol." Bah! The veteran was so angry that he jumped up from the ground. He didn't plan to drink at first, but it was rare that he and his junior had two words in common, so he got a little interested. But now, not only was the interest gone, but he was also completely disgusted by this drunk guy. "Are you a dog?" The veteran was so angry that he couldn't help but spray Ling Bai. Woof! Woof woof woof! Who would have thought that Ling Bai would bite him directly? In front of a solitary taste of fine wine, face is worthless. The two people's playfulness attracted the attention of many people. On the square, there was laughter. "Ha ha ha ha! You actually believe this kid's lies?" Gummel came over at some point and laughed mercilessly at the veteran. But he was a little better than Ling Bai and handed the veteran a bottle of wine. The veteran took a swig and didn't want to talk to Gumir. He walked aside and drank alone. Who would have thought that as soon as the veteran left, Gumir sneaked up next to Ling Bai. "Hey! Boy, I kidnapped him. You must give me his share." Chapter 16. Big Knife 21 Gongju. It turned out that Gumir had heard the news a long time ago. Drinking before the Great Pirate era is definitely the highlight. Just thinking about it, Gummel felt that other wines had no taste. "Divide? Divide the ball. Do you want a drink? It's a life!" Ling Bai yelled. "Share the wine? It is impossible to share wine in this life. You stinky boy! Don't think I don't dare to chop you with a knife," Gummel said, pulling out the two swords from his waist. The blades of the two famous swords were pointed at Ling Bai unceremoniously, with cold light flashing and menacing momentum. "Just chop. Who is afraid of whom? Having a knife is great. I also have a knife, young master." Ling Bai can't lose his momentum even if he loses. He resolutely took out Ming Hong. The sharpness on the blade was stronger than Gumir's two knives combined. "This is..." When Gumir saw Ming Hong, a flash of horror suddenly flashed in his drunken eyes. He didn't even pay attention to Binks's wine. "Boy! Where did you get the black knife?" Gumir is good at swordsmanship and has the heart of a swordsman in his heart. And as long as you are a swordsman, you are like a pervert seeing a beautiful woman, you have no resistance to a good sword. It has nothing to do with you. If you want to cut it, don't talk nonsense. Ling Bai took Ming Hong and waved it around. He looked very fierce and had a lot of noise, but Gummel could tell at a glance that Ling Bai was a layman. What is a black knife? Just like beads and walnuts, a famous sword that has been developed with powerful armament and domineering over time may become a black sword. Different from the domineering aura that is temporarily attached during battle, this black color nourished deep inside the blade makes the black sword unparalleled in strength, and it is also a brilliance that cannot be concealed by any sword worthy of its name. And now, this legendary sword was wielded blindly by a man who couldn't even swing a sword. This feeling is just like when you see someone shorter, uglier, and poorer than you, but they have a fair-skinned, beautiful, and rich girlfriend. Uncontrollable jealousy took over Gumir's heart almost instantly. "Where did you get it from?" Gummel's eyes were full of bloodshot. Every time Ling Bai swung the black knife, he felt his heart bleeding and crying for the black knife. "Why are you so long-winded? I made it out of thin air, isn't it okay?" Ling Bai rolled his eyes. The tip of Ming Hong's knife pointed at Gummel and found a random reason to explain. "Look. I said he was a magician, how could a person with special abilities swim in the sea?" A navy interrupted. "Shut up." Gummel was upset and kicked the navy away with one foot, and turned to Ling Bai and said, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? I don't believe it." "Don't believe it? Then bring your knife." Ling Bai stretched out his hand like lightning, and Gummel's two knives appeared in his hand. "What are you going to do? Watch it." Ling Bai found a high place and showed Gummel's two knives to all the navy. When the navy saw that there was a show, they naturally enjoyed it. "Dear audience, please look, this is Vice Admiral Gumir's sword, now in my hand." I shook my hand. "Hey, look, is it still there?" But I shook my hand again. "Hey! Look! It's gone. Ling Bai laughed. In front of everyone, with 360 degrees of no blind spot, the two famous swords disappeared. Awesome! Good job! Reward! The navy was very happy to watch, and threw empty wine bottles at Ling Bai one by one, as if throwing flowers on the stage, and in a blink of an eye, Ling Bai was drowned. Ling Bai dug open the empty wine bottle and saluted everyone elegantly. Little trick! Thank you for your support! Thank you for your support! Ding! The transformation is completed, and 2 bottles of the Great Sword 21 work wine are obtained, which is a divine product. After drinking, the sword realm is improved to the Great Sword Master realm, which can be stacked. If you pour it out, you can release a powerful slash. Listening to the system's prompt sound, Ling Bai did not change on the surface. After years of stealing wine, he had already developed some skills and quietly hid 2 bottles of wine without anyone noticing. Don't give me those useless things. I cannot drink wine, just lend me the black knife. Gumier knew that magic was the so-called sleight of hand, and he was not interested at all. He only had the black knife in his eyes. He knew that it was impossible to snatch something from Ling Bai, so he took a step back and asked to borrow something. Borrow? Well. Ling Bai smiled cunningly and turned to the navy under the stage and shouted, Brothers, do you think I should lend it to you? Borrow it, but at least a bottle of wine. A bullshit pot, didn't you hear it was a black knife? At least a warehouse. Boy, just ask for a big price, we will testify for you for any conditions. The navy watched the excitement one by one and didn't mind the big deal. Taking advantage of the alcohol, they vented all their dissatisfaction with their superiors on weekdays. What are you up to, you little brat? Are you worried that I won't return it after borrowing it? I'm just borrowing it to have a look, it won't cost you a piece of meat. I'll give you 10 pots of wine at most. You owe me first. And you bunch of bastards. I'll remember those guys who are making trouble there. Don't regret it when you sober up. Gummel threatened. But the navy were all drunk and having a great time, who cares? Then 10 pots. It's a deal. Ling Bai was originally not interested in the wine. The more Gummel paid attention to the black knife, the more he would ignore his 2 famous knives. He threw the black knife Minghong to Gummel. Oh, be careful. Gummel was so scared that he trembled and caught Minghong in a hurry. What are you afraid of? If it can be broken like this, what kind of black knife is it? Ha, laymen just don't understand. Ling Bai said contemptuously. Hearing this, Gummel felt that his lungs were about to explode. You are a little brat who doesn't even know how to wield a sword, and you are pointing fingers here. I don't want the black knife to be covered in dust. Gumier roared. But soon, his mind was attracted by the black knife in his hand again. The blade of Minghong is black, with a little scarlet in the black, about 3 feet long, and the pattern on the blade is like a flying skylark. Just looking at it closely, Gumier felt a sting in his eyes, as if he couldn't withstand the sharpness of Minghong. Good knife. It's really a good knife. Gumier couldn't help but praise, his eyes were more blurred than when he was drunk. This is intoxicated. Chapter 17, Always Painful After a Hangover. Gumier looked at the black knife Minghong, looking like a pervert. And Ling Bai returned to the middle of a pile of empty wine bottles. You look at the knife, I drink, we are free and happy. Ling Bai took out Binks's fine wine and gently opened the jar seal. This wine jar lid that has experienced time is tightly connected to the wine jar. Ling Bai spent a lot of effort to open the wine intact. Wow! After removing the seal, the whole jar of wine seemed to have removed a seal. The rich aroma of wine overflowed, like a pair of gentle hands, teasing the nose of every navy. Faintly, there seemed to be fairy music, and the lingering sound was lingering. Send Binks's wine to your side. As free as the sea breeze. Ride the wind and waves. Everyone heard the music in the dark. Someone in the square started humming along, and soon a chorus formed. As the singing progressed, people became more and more drunk. Although they did not continue to drink, it seemed as if they had drunk a lot. The navy fell down one after another, drunk all over the floor. Bring Binks's fine wine to your side. Day after day. Meet in the dusk of dreams. Ling Bai also fell into the interweaving of fine wine and music. Unconsciously, his hearing was greatly enhanced, and his music skills were max. When the last drop of wine passed through his throat, he fell into a deep sleep. In an instant, the snoring of the crowd formed a symphony, one after another, and it was endless. I don't know how much time has passed. The days after a hangover are always painful. Gumir was lying on the ground and sleeping soundly, and suddenly someone pressed his head with his hand and lifted him up. Who is it? Gumir struggled subconsciously. He tried to move the hand on his head with his hands, but found that he couldn't move it. Don't you know who I am? The voice was familiar, but the tone was obviously unfriendly. Suddenly, his hand loosened. And Gumir didn't react and fell to the ground. It hurts, it hurts. Gumir sobered up a little. But after sobering up, he found that he was uncomfortable everywhere, with a headache, neck pain, buttocks pain. Then, he finally remembered drinking, and tried to recall it, but found that he had no memory of it. When did my self-control become so bad? Gumir fell into regret and slowly opened his eyes. The light was dim, and it seemed that the sky had just brightened. Then, Zifa's slightly angry smile was imprinted in Gumir's eyes. Teacher Zifa. Good morning. Good morning. Gumir shuddered and widened his eyes, feeling like he was dreaming. But the uncomfortable pain after the hangover told him that Zifa was indeed standing in front of him. Morning? Ha 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 ha, how much did you drink? The sun is below the sea level. Zifa said with a smile, looking at him meaningfully. Huang, dusk. Gumir secretly thought that he had missed something. He still had many important routines to do today. Among them, it includes contacting Zifa. It's all the students' fault. They asked you to come here in person. He was interrupted halfway through his words. What student? You've already graduated, so you should call yourself the master. Zifa sneered. Hearing this, a vague memory emerged in Gumir's mind. In that memory, he said some arrogant words. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Gumir smiled. He laughed and started to pretend to be confused. Forgot? It's okay, I'll help you recall it. I went to the Navy Liaison Headquarters to retrieve the call records the day before yesterday. Zephyr took out a special den mushi from his arms. Gently pressing the button on the back of the shell, Gumil's arrogant voice came out of the den mushi's mouth. Even the impatient tone when hanging up the phone was imitated vividly. This. Gumil's face turned pale. It's okay to say anything after drinking, but I'm afraid someone will help you remember it. And listening to the voice in the den mushi, Gumil has remembered everything that happened the day before yesterday. Wait. The day before yesterday. Gumil's mouth opened wide. Could it be that he slept for a day and a night, and continued to sleep until the evening of the next day? Damn, how many things will be delayed? This is really unlike you, Gumil. Zephyr shook his head. Gumil was ashamed and even wanted to slap himself twice. But now that things have come to this, it is useless to say anything, and we must make up for it quickly. Let's go to my office first, the square will be reserved for military training. Gumil turned around and found a group of Navy officers lying in the square. For a moment, Gumil wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. What kind of training is this? The people who are to be trained are even more sleepy than him. Good training. Very G2 characteristics. When it rains, it pours. With Zifa's finishing blow, Gumil felt that he had lost all his face. This old man has vision. At this time, a very discordant voice sounded. Ling Bai came over drunkenly, one hand on Gumil's shoulder, and the other hand pointed at Zifa with admiration. Gumil felt that the world was collapsing. Why are you still drinking? Gumil was so angry that he stamped his feet and winked at Ling Bai. Even if you are drunk, you have to consider the occasion. This is the Admiral of the Navy, the highest level commander of the entire Navy, who directly formulates military discipline. Hey, I just woke up a while ago. I still have some stock on hand. Anyway, everyone is still asleep, so I'm just sitting there doing nothing. Oh, by the way, you've seen enough of the knife, I took it back myself, don't forget the 10 jugs of wine you owe me. Ling Bai said with a smile, not noticing Gumir's hint at all. Gumir was very sad. Very sad. Chapter 18. Observation Haki. How do you remember it so clearly? Doesn't your head hurt? Seeing that Ling Bai didn't understand, Gumir held his forehead uncomfortably. Compared to the headache of a hangover, he felt a real headache when he saw Ling Bai. No, it doesn't hurt at all. Are you angry? Ling Bai said in a mean tone, and he was in the mood to joke. Then, he hung the wine jug in his hand upside down. He raised his head and was about to drink. Suddenly, a big hand reached out like lightning. Hey! Grab the wine! Ling Bai tilted his head back and couldn't see at all. But he heard the noise, and the hand holding the wine retracted, while the other hand stretched out. Boom! Ling Bai and Zifa faced each other with palms. Ling Bai retreated half a step, while Zifa retreated a full step. In a tentative confrontation, Ling Bai actually got the upper hand. There was a hint of surprise in Zifa's eyes. His hand was still shaking and hurting. And he seized the opportunity and suddenly attacked, but this kid reacted immediately. Is he really drunk, or pretending to be drunk? Interesting. Boy, who did you learn your observation haki from? Zifa put his hand away and stood up. Observation haki? Have I learned it? Ling Bai scratched his head. The so-called observation haki is the power to strongly sense the sound of the other party. In short, it is the power of hearing. Once the observation haki is awakened, the position and number of enemies outside the line of sight can be read, and the action that the other party will take in the next moment can be judged. You haven't learned it. Zifa's eyes were even more surprised. You know, observation haki has a lot to do with psychology, and you need to be calm to ensure its use. You can't use observation haki when you are emotionally excited or lose your mind. He saw Ling Bai was drunk but could use observation haki skillfully, and thought Ling Bai had completely mastered the essentials of observation haki. Have I learned it, brother? Ling Bai asked Gumier. How do I know? Gumier said unhappily. Oh. Well, since you didn't teach me, who taught me? Ling Bai touched his chin, and seemed to be trying hard to recall. Seeing this, Zifa couldn't calm down for a long time. Practicing observation haki is not as easy as eating and drinking, but requires constant practice. The most commonly used method is to dodge in the rapid attacks again and again, and gradually comprehend the use of observation haki. Even Zifa himself remembers the hard days of practicing observation haki in his 20s clearly. This kid, can he forget? Is there really no one who taught him? Zifa had a guess in his heart, but he didn't dare to believe it. In other words, he could subconsciously judge something simply by listening. This kind of talent? Genius! Zifa muttered. Were you praising me just now? Did you hear it? You said it so loudly, I'm not deaf. Ling Bai said as a matter of course, and then took another sip of wine, and smiled proudly, but I've seen that you have a good eye. It's reasonable that you can find that I'm a genius. Ha ha ha. You are so thick-skinned. Gumel also muttered in a low voice. Brother! Don't say bad things about me behind my back. Ling Bai said dissatisfiedly. You can hear this too. Nonsense. Do you two think I'm deaf? Look here, this is an ear. Ling Bai rolled his eyes at the two of them, waved his hands in boredom, and felt that the two of them were very boring. Walked to the side alone, drinking the divine Dokaideo 21 gong wine by himself. Obviously just a private soldier, he naturally ignored a lieutenant general and a general. What's even more bizarre is that the two generals didn't feel offended at all. Teacher Zifa? What I said just now was very loud. Gumel said in a deep voice. It's as thin as a mosquito, hard to detect. Zifa also said in a deep voice. The two looked at each other and understood. Have you discovered that this kid has excellent hearing before? Zifa asked. No, I haven't been in contact with him for a long time, and there is no record in his file. Gumel answered truthfully. This level of hearing shows that this kid has a strong perception. Maybe he can practice the observation color to that extreme level. You mean the Pirate King Roger? Gumel's eyes gradually widened. He never dreamed that Zifa would have such a high evaluation of Ling Bai. It's hard to say. There are many people with extraordinary hearing in the world, but there are very few people with strong hearing and this kind of comprehension talent. He passed the first test. Gumier, you have introduced me a good newcomer. I'm in a good mood today. I won't report G2's drinking to the higher UPS. Zephyr grinned and looked at Ling Bai with interest. Really? The dark clouds on Gumier's face were swept away. He originally recommended Ling Bai to Zifa just to send that brat away. I didn't expect that he could please Zifa and avoid a serious punishment. What a pleasant surprise. Don't be happy too early. There are conditions. Zephyr turned and looked at Gumier, his smile became more and more intense. What? What conditions? Gumir's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad premonition. Everyone who has participated in the elite marine training camp knows that. When Zifa smiles, ghosts scream. Chapter 19. Zifa's test. Zafal's smile makes Gumir shudder. The conditions are not difficult either. Zifa raised his lips even more and said, the annual Navy competition is coming soon. You G2 want to win the team competition championship. What did you say? As if a basin of cold water was poured down on him, Gumil trembled all over. The so-called annual naval competition is a military competition between various naval branches. There are various competitions every year to measure the training status of each branch. The strength of G2, looking at the entire first half of the Great Line, is undeniably strong. But compared with those monsters in the New World, they are not on the same level at all. On the other side of the Red Continent, there are sergeants with a slight military rank who are very skilled in using their weapons, colors, and domineering skills. Looking at G2, there are not many who can do it. How is it possible to win the championship? Gumil gritted his teeth and said. The G2 branch participated in the competition and never thought about competing with the Navy of the New World. Don't worry. This year's competition will be held with the theme of strength and sword. You are a great swordsman. As long as you train hard, you still have a chance to compete with G1 and G5. After Zifa finished speaking, he patted Gumir hard on the shoulder. Faced with this kind of encouragement, Gumil didn't feel like he had any chance of winning. The G5 branch of the Navy has been on the front line against pirates all year round, and its overall strength is terrifying. As for the G1 branch, has won the championship for 10 consecutive years. Fight with them. What a fight! Gumir himself didn't believe it. What to do? In despair, Gumir thought of Ling Bai again. Can you leave Ling Bai to me? Gumil carefully probed. The annual naval competition only allows navies below the rank of admiral to participate. If there was that black knife, supplemented by his own personal guidance, and that kid's strange power. Perhaps. There is a glimmer of possibility. The subordinates you handed over are like the water you threw out. You want to take it back? Ha ha ha. You can't take it back. Zifa saw through Gumir's idea at a glance and rejected it without hesitation. Being able to penetrate the power testing equipment and put it in a competition below the general level is not a direct sweep. Of course Zifa would not allow such a thing to happen. He could hide the alcoholism in the G2 branch, but he would never let Gumil get away with it easily. Don't use any crooked ideas. Rather than having time to take advantage of others, it's better to spend time training seriously. Now, I want to conduct the second test on Ling Bai. Maybe you can pray that he can't pass. Zifa's words whetted Gumir's appetite. If Ling Bai fails to pass Zifa's test, he will naturally stay in the G2 branch and participate in the competition. Hateful. Gumir stamped his foot in annoyance. He tried his best to send Ling Bai away before, but now he hopes Ling Bai can stay. After going round and round, it turned out that he was just tormenting himself. Gumil was also very conflicted about whether to pass or not. After a while, the two came to Ling Bai again. But Ling Bai didn't seem to see the two of them, and kept shaking the empty wine bottle. Uncomfortable. The 2 jugs of fast work wine are gone. Ling Bai muttered. Throwing it away, he dropped the empty wine bottle on the ground. The wine is gone? Just in time, let's start the second test. Zifa said patiently. Test. Ling Bai looked very lethargic and said nonchalantly, I have to go find a drink and don't have time to do any tests. With that said, Ling Bai got up to leave. But before he could take 2 steps, he stumbled and fell to the ground. The wine that God tastes is very strong, and he drank 2 bottles of De Kui Deo 21 gong liquor. It is already a miracle that he is awake now. Ling Bai fluttered his feet several times, but still couldn't stand up. So drunk. Gumir touched his chin. Zifa's tests vary, but are usually divided into 3 parts. Part 1, Strain. Mainly tests physical fitness, perception, and on-the-spot reaction. Just now, Zifa made a rough judgment on Ling Bai's sudden attack and declared it passed. The second part is known as the most talent testing part among the 3 parts, learning. Zifa will randomly select a move or skill, and then give the students only 1 book and let them learn by themselves. After 24 hours, they will randomly check the results. Usually, complete mastery is not required, but the value of a person's training can be seen from the results of understanding. This kid is so drunk that he won't be able to sleep until the day after tomorrow. Gummel's eyes sparkled. There were many ideas in my head immediately. The annual Navy competition will be held in a month. Let Ling Bai stay and win the championship first. By then, this kid will definitely shine and attract the attention of senior officials. Then, it was still the same and he left my G2 branch. Gummel didn't care whether Ling Bai entered the elite naval training camp or not. As long as this troublesome guy can be sent out, whether he joins the Warring States period or Garp's command, Gummel is happy to see it. You seem happy. Zifa saw through Gumir's little thoughts at a glance. How could it be possible? But teacher, you said you wanted to conduct the second test, but you can't delay the time and engage in favoritism. Gummel said narrowly. Ha ha ha, Gummel, you are getting more and more shameless. However, I think this kid can learn it even when he is drunk. Zifa himself couldn't explain where the confidence came from. But he always felt that even if Ling Bai was drunk and lying down, his mind was still awake. Maybe it's because Ling Bai was drunk just now but was able to react quickly. Then give him the book quickly. Seeing that Zifa had no intention of changing the testing method, Gummel felt happy. He even helped to lift Ling Bai up and stood in front of Zifa like a puddle of mud. Ling Bai, I believe you can hear me. Now, I will give you a second test to test your learning ability. Based on your experience of being drunk all the time, I think you may have a unique understanding of this skill. Immediately, Zifa showed off the textbook he specially prepared for Ling Bai. Chapter 20. 6 Naval Styles Paper Painting. Gumir supported Ling Bai and looked straight at the textbook that Zifa took out. What is it then? Zifa has always emphasized teaching students in accordance with their aptitude. In such a short contact time, did you find any special qualities in Ling Bai? Navy 6 Style Paper Painting. Zifa explained to Ling Bai, the 6 forms are physical skills developed by the Navy's physical skills masters of all generations, including shaving, iron block, paper painting, moon step, land kick, finger gun. The 6 postures are powerful and practical, but they require extremely high physical fitness. If you have a good foundation, you are very suitable for practicing. You should be able to learn the languid kick, finger gun, etc. very quickly. On the contrary, I am very curious about how far you can use paper painting when you are drunk. After Zifa explained, Gumir's face suddenly burst into laughter. It's actually the 6th form. And it's the most difficult paper drawing to learn among them. If it were a simple skill, Gumir would be worried that Ling Bai would get away with it by luck. But the 6th form of the Navy is the essence of physical skills, and the difficulty of practicing it is second to none. As for paper painting, because of its difficulty and practicality, even Gumir himself has not learned it. Zifa glanced at Gumir and said in a deep voice. Humph. You all think that paper painting is difficult and not very practical, so among the current lieutenant generals, there are very few people who know it. But in fact, paper painting is the soul of the entire 6 styles. It is also the basis for understanding the ultimate secret of the 6 styles. When Gumir saw that Zifa was unhappy, he quickly defended. Of course we all know the importance of paper painting. You have talked about this before. Then tell me, why should I test Ling Bai with paper drawings? Gumir rolled his eyes and said, practice paper painting requires all your strength. You see Ling Bai's drunken appearance. He seems to be unmotivated, but in fact he is relaxed, so you think he may understand paper painting through the way of wine, thus achieving some attainments in the 6 styles. Upon hearing these remarks, Zifa's eyes changed slightly as he looked at Gumir. Oh? You think so too? Zifa did not expect that with Gumir's eyesight, he could also see Ling Bai's talent in this area. This was exactly what he thought of. Teacher Zifa's vision is naturally unmistakable. Gummel flattered. But in my heart, I couldn't stop laughing. This shit is so relaxed, it's just like being drunk into a puddle. Now this puddle of mud is paralyzed in his hands, can he still know? Besides, although he doesn't know how to draw with paper, he also knows that the most difficult part of learning to draw with paper is to master the body and muscles with extreme precision. This reason alone is enough to make most navies shy away from paper drawing. Even if we take another 10,000 steps back and assume that this kid is really one of the most extraordinary geniuses, with his current appearance, if he can read even a single word in the book, I will lose. In Gummel's mind, it was a definite fact that Ling Bai would represent G2 at the annual Navy competition. But these little calculations did not attract Zifa's attention. Zifa handed the book with paper painting in front of Ling Bai, thought about it, and promised, "This is a test, and it is also my expectation for you. If you can learn paper painting in one day, I will personally in my name, I'll give you a warship's worth of wine." As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Bai, who seemed to be unconscious at first, stretched out a hand and placed it on the book very steadily. "One day? It's 24 hours, right?" Ling Bai said. "That's right. At this time tomorrow, I will test the results of your practice." "No problem. A warship. I want good wine." After Ling Bai finished speaking, he twitched his hand and put the book away. "Aren't you drunk?" Gumel's eyes widened and he let go of Ling Bai. But as soon as he let go, Ling Bai rolled directly to the ground, unable to stand firm. "Why did you push me?" Ling Bai stared at Gumel with resentment, tried to stand up, slid his feet horizontally on the ground for a few times, and then gave up. "It seems that he is drunk." Zifa chuckled and thought Ling Bai was very interesting. "Anyway, I explained clearly, didn't say much, turned around and left." Gumir stood there, looking at Ling Bai who was rolling on the ground strangely. Is this kid really drunk or pretending to be drunk? He couldn't understand or comprehend it. Ling Bai's negotiating momentum when he accepted the book just now didn't look like he was drunk at all. A person is not drunk when he is drunk with wine, and a person is not drunk when he is drunk. Ling Bai seemed to be talking to himself. Then he suddenly raised his head, looked at Gumel, and showed a meaningful smile. "You." Gumel subconsciously took a few steps back. A feeling of extreme horror lingered in my heart. Just as he was about to say something, he found a huge snot bubble hanging on Ling Bai's face. Extremely loud snoring came from Ling Bai's mouth. Suddenly, the snot bubbles burst, and the smile on Ling Bai's face became even stronger. "1 warship's worth of wine. He he he. 1 warship's worth of wine." Hearing this voice, Gumel's eyelids shrank. "It seems that I am overthinking. Shit, people are always drunk, this must be a cliché that this kid has been using for years to show off." He immediately knelt down and said to Ling Bai, "Boy, promise me, you will stay in confusion until tomorrow and don't do anything. From now on, I will personally teach you. Let you, a layman, become an outstanding swordsman." "Who asked you to teach me?" "I am a genius." Who would have thought that Ling Bai would pick up the conversation again? His eyes suddenly opened wide, he opened the book and began to read seriously. Gumel took a look and realized that this brat had even held the book upside down. "Then come on." Gumir patted Ling Bai on the shoulder and finally walked away relieved. "Study, study. I only have study in my heart." Ling Bai didn't even blink, as if he wanted to stare right through the book. But after a while, he found that he couldn't understand a word. At this time, a slender and smooth hand stretched out and changed the direction of the book for Ling Bai. Ling Bai suddenly realized that he had held the book upside down. "Oh, that's it, I mean I don't know a single word." "Thank you." Ling Bai looked up, only to find that there was no one in front of him. He scratched his head and continued reading without paying attention. A few more minutes passed. Ling Bai's eyelids had already begun to fight. "I still haven't read a single word in the book." "Learn. Learn shit!" Ling Bai shouted. "If you have this skill, you might as well drink." Ling Bai closed the book and muttered in his heart. "System, turn this book into wine for me." Chapter 21, Divinely Delicious Book and Wine. Ding, the transformation is completed, you will get a pot of Daigo Shuju, a divine product. After drinking it, you will feel like you are enlightened, and your paper painting skills will be max. The system beep sounded, and Ling Bai shivered and woke up quite a bit. Another divine product. Ling Bai looked at the converted Daigo Shuju and felt confused. System, is it so easy to taste wine now? Can a book be transformed into a magic wine? Ding, after systematic appraisal, the transformation material contains an original copy of an ancient book, with the handwriting of the founder of paper painting, the insights and experiences of those who have practiced paper painting in the past generations, and Zifa's detailed annotations and explanations. It is a divine product, correct? After hearing this, Ling Bai really remembered. When he was reading the book just now, there were indeed more than a dozen pages that were obviously yellowed, and the handwriting on the book was not written by one person. It's no wonder that Ling Bai can't figure it out. If Gumir knew that Zifa gave the original manuscript of the 6 styles to Ling Bai, he would definitely be even more confused. In the Navy, only those with outstanding merits can apply for the 6 types original manuscript to learn from. The 6 style manuscript records the experiences and insights of generations of Navy masters. Many people who have read the 6 style manuscript can innovate and develop their own exclusive 6 style. In fact, Zifa's importance to Ling Bai has already exceeded Gumir's imagination. So, study? Just study. Doesn't drinking sound good to him? Ling Bai's eyes quickly became blurred. Open Daigo Shuju and get initiated directly. It has a bit of ink smell, a bit of paper fragrance, and a bit of wasted time. However, all the flavors are blended by a strong scent of sake, which is incomparably harmonious. Ling Bai felt as if he was in the depths of the bamboo forest, with a book full of ink. At the same time, Ling Bai's thoughts on the use and perception of paper painting were precipitated in his mind. Gradually, it merges with the feeling of drunkenness. The next day, G2 Branch Square. Navy personnel below the general level received orders to begin active preparations for the annual naval competition in 1 month's time. Ever since it was still dark, the sound of training has never stopped coming from the big phone in the square. It was not until noon that Gumul received Pen's report in the Lieutenant General's office. What you said is true. Gumul swallowed his saliva, his expression was surprised and happy. It's absolutely true. I have never been as powerful as I am now. Although there is no test, I think I can hack 2 warships in a row. Pen said happily. He took off his Navy uniform and showed Gumul his swollen muscles. How many people are like this in the Navy? Gumul asked. About 100 or so. Each one seems to have been transformed. If the Daoli equipment is still there, it will definitely be able to produce exciting figures. More than 100. Gumul suddenly stood up from his seat, his surprise palpable. The team competition is for hundreds of people. Such a coincidence, maybe God is helping. And I have also investigated that the ones with the most obvious increase in strength were the dozens of people who were most seriously injured that day. You mean? Gumul and Pen looked at each other and thought of a possibility at the same time. Shabu shabu wine. Gumul pondered. That's right. Pen said firmly. In addition to healing injuries, can it also increase people's strength? No way. And I also drank a lot that day, so I don't feel much. Lieutenant General, your physique is already much stronger than ours, maybe it's just that the changes are not obvious. Pen said, moved closer and whispered, and don't you think the power of that boy Ling Bai is too strong? You mean? It's all the wine. Ordinary wine will definitely have no effect, but he seems to have something. With that said, Pen took out a wine bottle. Empty, clean, not a drop of wine left. What's this? Gumul looked around and saw nothing special about it. Then he took the empty wine bottle from Pen's hand and looked at it carefully. For some reason, he always felt familiar. I picked it up from Ling Bai. You can see the fine lines on it. It's not the standard wine within our navy. By the way, there's another one here. Pen took out another wine bottle and handed it to Gumul. Gumul held the 2 wine bottles in his hands. For some reason, the feeling of one in each hand was extremely familiar. How come it's so familiar? Gumul couldn't understand. This is the first time I've seen the style of a hip flask, but it always feels like it's in my hand, as if he's been holding it for many years. After thinking about it for a long time, I still didn't understand where the feeling came from. Lieutenant General. I have an idea. Pen's terrifying face suddenly made him feel embarrassed. Looking at Pen's squirming look, Gumul looked weird and felt a little disgusted. If you have anything to say, just say it. Gumul urged as he looked away. Lieutenant General. Should we want to have a quickie again? What did you say? Gumul thought he heard wrongly. He looked at Pen, then at the empty wine bottle in his hand, and couldn't laugh or cry for a moment. You don't know what the use is, but you just want to eat that guy Ling Bai's saliva? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Are you addicted to dishwater? Gumul smashed his mouth. Thinking back on it, I feel disgusted. Pen also mustered up a lot of courage to make this suggestion. Seeing Gumul's disgusted look, he quickly said, didn't you just make a guess last time and order the soldiers to drink it? I think it is necessary to try. Otherwise, why should we win the championship? You. Gummel wanted to refute, but he knew he was wrong. Looking back on that day now, he couldn't figure out where he got the confidence to bet on the usefulness of shabu pot wine. Lieutenant General, Pen said seriously. Gummel couldn't resist and could only say, since you are so insistent, let's try it. But the wine in the warehouse has been finished and there is no way to rinse it. It's okay. I still have some stock over there. Pen immediately beamed. Hey! How dare you hide wine? Gummel's eyes widened, but he didn't realize that an honest navy like Pen dared to challenge military discipline. Not much. There are about 100 people, and each of them can only take one sip. Pen touched his head in embarrassment. One bite, that's okay. Gummel carefully analyzed the consequences and felt that it was not a loss, and then said, then you go and try it. Don't tell them the truth, the drink money. I will find an opportunity to replenish it for you. Thank you, Lieutenant General. Pen got the iron order and left happily with 2 empty wine bottles. Gumir sat back in his seat. Strange, why are those 2 bottles of wine so familiar? An inexplicable feeling of loss filled my heart. Chapter 22. Major General Jun. G2 Branch Outer Port, Naval Headquarters Ship. Jun, are you telling the truth? Zifa actually gave the original manuscript of the 6 styles to a newcomer. At first, I couldn't believe it, but I took the opportunity to take a look. It is indeed the original manuscript of 6 styles paper painting. A slender female marine said to the phone bug. Looking at the rank, he is a major general. This woman named Jun, the future General Mamoto, was reporting something to the other side through an encrypted phone bug. What kind of medicine is sold in Zifa's gourd? Since we are using paper drawing as a test, we probably don't want to accept students, but why do we give that guy the original manuscript? On the other side of the phone, there was the voice of Crane. It's indeed strange. Jun was also puzzled. What's the boy's reaction? Can he understand the original manuscript? He asked. In order not to attract teacher Zifa's attention, I didn't stay too long, but I heard that Ling Bai fell asleep after watching it for a while. When will you sleep until? I haven't woken up yet. Not awake. On the other side of the phone, he changed his tone and chuckled, that brat who has never seen the world has ruined all the good things. It seems that we don't have to waste time on him anymore. What do you mean, Ling Bai will not be accepted as a disciple by teacher Hui? Although Zifa teaches students in accordance with their aptitude and is eclectic, his teaching has always been strict. This test is just to see if Ling Bai has a sense of propriety in his heart. Even if Ling Begwang just finished reading the book drunk and didn't learn anything, I'm afraid Zifa would accept him as his student, teach him well, and give him a heavy responsibility. But now, that kid fell asleep directly, completely ungrateful. Zifa is not stupid and will not accept it. He was obviously on the other side of the sea, nearly 100 miles away, but based on Jun's report, he could immediately analyze Zifa's true intention. That's right. Behind this test called learning, the real intention is to judge whether Ling Bai has the overall situation and restraint when facing important matters. So that's it. Jun nodded and responded. I didn't mention anything about Ling Bai's drinking. I thought teacher Zifa didn't care. Now it seems that Ling Bai was deliberately forced to read while drunk, taking the opportunity to judge his willpower and character. It seems to be a simple test, but in fact, there are too many test points hidden behind it. You are worthy of being a teacher. After saying that, both of them were silent for a while. Zifa is famous for his black wrist, but he is not a mindless warrior. This time, I took the initiative to lend you your warship to go to G2 because I wanted to see where I stand. You mean, the teacher knows that I have been reporting to you? Gumir has a good reputation in the Navy and his qualifications are not low. Many navies will carefully refer to his suggestions for future marshals. This time Zifa came to G2. The Warring States side really asked me to carefully inquire about the information. He-chan vocal channel. What? Why didn't you tell me about this relationship? Jun exclaimed. The request she received from he was just to pay attention to Zifa's drunk newcomer. As for the Admiral of the Navy, there is no news at all. Humph. Zifa must have thought of this. I won't tell you because I'm afraid you'll alert me. It's good now. I don't want to make the relationship too tense, in case Zifa is forced to panic. Are you doubting what the teacher will do? But regarding his position as marshal, it's hard to say. At present, Zifa is really not interested in the position of marshal. I am just making the worst plan. You can stay with me without worry. Just do whatever Zifa asks you to do. Just tell me when you come back. Yes. Jun hung up the phone and fell into deep thought. After a while, she walked out of the cabin door and found Zifa waiting outside. Teacher! Jun exclaimed. What? Startled. Zifa grinned. Reaching out, he helped Jun to tidy up the navy cloak. How long have you been waiting here? Jun said calmly. I just arrived. It's a good time for you to come out too. Come on, accompany me to do a test. Test? What test? Jun asked in confusion. Of course it's the paper painting of Ling Bai. Didn't you help him hold the book straight yesterday? Zifa smiled. Hearing this, Jun's back began to sweat slightly. In fact, she went there secretly yesterday, and her movements were very fast. After she found out that it was the 6th-style manuscript, she left without attracting attention. Logically, no one should know except Ling Bai. Because I heard that we were going to test paper painting, I was a little surprised, and I just wanted to confirm it. Jun defended. It's okay, no need to explain the reason. Anyway, you have helped that kid find the direction of the book, why don't you help me and do the test of paper painting? I will. Jun pointed at herself in surprise. Although she is only a major general, in fact, she is just not meritorious enough. Her real combat power is stronger than that of an ordinary lieutenant general. She is a real great swordsman. Let her do the test, even those who have practiced paper painting to the extreme may not be able to dodge a slash. You are the best candidate. Anyway, I also want to know whether Crane still wants me to continue to accept students. What did you say? Jun's body tensed. At this time, Zifa suddenly mentioned Crane, obviously with a purpose. For a while, Jun's mind was lingering. If she takes the test seriously, a major general is so harsh on newcomers, it is inevitable that Zifa will think too much and think that he does not want Zifa to continue to expand the student population and increase influence. But on the other hand, if she does not take the test seriously and let Ling Bai pass the test, then it would not be. Teacher still wants to accept Ling Bai as a student. Jun understood the intention. Ha ha ha. Zifa turned around, leaned on the side of the ship, looked at the square of the G2 branch and said, he just said a lot of right. If Ling Bai really slept like this for a day, I would indeed think that he gave up without knowing what was good for him. But now, the words have not been finished yet. On the G2 square, nearly 100 sword lights suddenly lit up. Jun looked over when he heard the sound, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 23. Those who can't be awakened, let's start. The hundreds of bright sword lights were actually pulled out by the Navy soldiers of the G2 branch. Military ranks vary, the highest is the colonel, and the lowest is actually a corporal. How is it possible? A corporal can draw a knife light? Jun exclaimed. Being able to draw a knife light means that one has reached the threshold of sword master level in Kendo. Generally speaking, there are many sword masters among major generals and lieutenant generals, and occasionally there are a few people like Jun and Gumier who are very talented in Kendo and can become great sword masters. But it does not mean that just picking a navy can reach the threshold of sword master. But now, there are not only a few or dozens of people who can draw a knife light, but a full 100. Are you thinking? G2 branch is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Zifa laughed. Jun was completely shocked by the scene in front of him. They were all trained by Vice Admiral Gumier. Jun said in disbelief. He once told her that being a great sword master is just a beginning. Even if they are both great sword masters, their strengths may be worlds apart. She is a great swordsman, and Gumier is also a great swordsman. Jun thought that her strength was above Gumier, but she didn't expect that she completely underestimated this low-key Vice Admiral who has been stationed in G2 for many years. Old Vice Admiral. Unfathomable. Jun subconsciously put his hand on the famous sword Kinpala, and his heart was like a stormy sea, unable to calm down. Zifa saw all the micro-expressions on the woman's face. Ha 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 ha. Zifa couldn't help laughing. Why, what's wrong? Jun asked puzzled. You don't really think this is Gumier's work, right? Zifa laughed until tears came out. Isn't it? Nonsense. Suddenly, Zifa's smile disappeared and he shouted, Gumier has this ability, and I have already given him the position of the chief instructor of the navy. Everything you said is Ling Bai's credit. Ling Bai? Can he teach 100 swordsmen? Jun's beautiful eyes were as white as copper bells. From her appearance, she couldn't even tell that Ling Bai was an adult. It's not taught. I don't know exactly how it was done, but I got some information, and it may be related to devil fruit. Zifa said seriously. But even if he is an esper, he can't have this kind of power. Jun still can't believe it. Devil fruits are devil fruits, kendo is kendo, they are two completely different things. Hey, it's definitely related to Ling Bai anyway. I'm going to explore the truth slowly. That's how it is. After saying that, Zifa looked at Jun and showed a meaningful smile. And after hearing this, Jun completely understood. Zifa's words reaching this point showed Ling Bai's value and his favor for Ling Bai. A guy who can mass-produce swordsmen will undoubtedly have a huge influence. Only by using this level of weight as bait can you truly catch the crane's attitude. Are you willing to help me? Zifa smiled. Jun's forehead began to sweat, but fortunately his hair was thick, so it wasn't particularly noticeable. Time is running out, Zifa will definitely not take his eyes away from her for a moment. It is definitely impossible to contact he. In an instant, Jun remembered Tsuru's last confession. Don't worry, just stay with me. Just do whatever Zifa asks you to do. Just tell me when you come back. Crane's voice was still fresh in my memory, like a tip bag at a critical moment, which finally made Jun make a decision. I know. I will let Ling Bai pass the test. Jun expressed his attitude and was willing to help Zifa. Good. Zifa smiled knowingly. The two got off the warship and walked all the way to the square of the G2 branch. Gumir also found the right time and suspended the Navy's training so that everyone could watch the general's test. Ling Bai was still lying on the ground, looking unconscious. But around him, there were already many people on 3 levels inside and 3 outside. Back off, back off, back off. Pen was responsible for maintaining order and allowing the onlookers to leave enough space for testing. Salute. Swish. There was a neat sound of legs joining together, and everyone greeted Zifa and Jun with standard Navy salutes. Teacher, you are finally here, hurry up and take the test. Finish it early so that I can let Ling Bai join the training. This year, we individually and as a team will win the championship. Gumul said with a smile, feeling better than ever. You are so swollen. Seeing Gumir's triumphant appearance, Zifa was furious. He pointed at Jun next to him and said, this time, she's here to test. Gumul looked in the direction and found a sexy and tall woman. It turns out to be Major General Jun. Okay. 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 Gumul said 3 good things in a row, obviously very satisfied with Jun as a tester. Although she is a woman, she is recognized as a swordsman in the Navy. She can definitely end the battle with one blow. Jun nodded slightly, showed respect to Gumir, then walked forward and walked to Ling Bai. Retreat. Retreat. Retreat again. Don't be accidentally injured. Gumir replaced Pen and personally directed the order, leaving enough space for Jun to show off. At the same time, he smiled and signaled, conveying the message to Jun that it was time to start. Everyone's eyes were focused on Jun and Ling Bai in the center of the field. However, Jun looked at the unconscious Ling Bai and did not draw his sword for a long time. Don't you need to wake him up? Jun glanced at Zifa. Can you wake me up? Zifa turned to Gumir. You can't wake me up. Let's get started. Gumir urged. Now, Jun had a problem. With so many people watching, what on earth is she going to do to make Ling Bai pass the test? I can only cut it once. When it hurts, I will wake up naturally. Even if I just jump around a few times when I wake up, I still have room to operate. With an idea in mind, Jun placed Kinpura horizontally in front of him. Peach blossoms flowing water. The sword flashed. Only Zifa and Gumir were present who noticed Jun's action of drawing the sword. From drawing out the sword, to unsheathing it, to putting it away again, all the movements are done in one go, without any sloppiness at all. In the eyes of others, Jun put the knife in front of him, shook it and then put it down again. You draw your sword and chop it so quickly, you will be feared. A layman looks at the excitement, an expert looks at the door. Gumir learned a lot from Jun's blow. However, at least no water was released in Jun, and the test should be over at this point. But, next. No matter it was Gumir or Jun, even Zifa, who was watching coldly from behind, had his pupils shrinking. Ling Bai, who was originally unconscious, changed his posture at some point. And where he was lying just now, a peach-colored knife mark struck the empty space. Chapter 24. The slash is empty? No way. Zifa, who had been standing lazily, now stood straight. The peach-colored knife marks on the floor were obviously the sword drawn and slashed by Jun just now. Whether it is speed or strength, they all reflect the level of a great swordsman. The shape of cutting the water with the sword is very high quality. Although the cut was not deep in the end, it is not something that ordinary people can escape. Could it be that Jun had some special skills and used the power of the wind to push Ling Bai away? Zifa thought to himself. If Jun really knew how to be so clever, then no one present would be able to tell that she was cheating. It was truly a top-level fake. However, others don't think so. What's going on? Why did you put down the knife? I really wanted to feel a little bit attacked. At that moment, I felt sharp. Is it possible that the test is over? Look, there are knife marks there, but Ling Bai was not hit. The Navy looked confused. After Jun struck with his sword and slashed with his sword, there was no follow-up action, which disappointed everyone who came to admire the great swordsman's style. Teacher Zifa? How does this count? Gumal also had many speculations in his heart. He approved of Jun's sword-drawing attack, but he didn't think that Ling Bai, who was lying on the ground like a corpse, had the ability to dodge. Zifa raised the corner of his mouth. From Gumal's expression, he knew that Gumal didn't know the answer either. You should know that blow best. I think the test can be passed. As soon as he finished speaking, the scene was in an uproar. How could he possibly learn it? Gumal's face flushed with excitement. This kid only read a few minutes of the book since he got it. He sent a special person to monitor Ling Bai throughout the whole process, one post every 3 steps, one sentry every 5 steps, never stopping. If paper drawing is so simple that you can learn it by looking at it for a few minutes, then wouldn't all the navies in the world who have not learned paper drawing be idiots? Are you questioning my judgment? Zifa said solemnly. Gumir and Zifa's eyes collided, feeling tremendous pressure. But he really didn't want Ling Bai to be taken away by Zifa like this. Suddenly, a marine walked out of the crowd. Admiral Zifa. I want to join the elite naval training camp and hope to accept your assessment. As soon as these words came out, Gumal was stunned. This is a lieutenant, a real rookie, an ordinary person in the Navy. He actually has the courage to recommend himself to the Navy's highest sacred school? However, after this lieutenant, more Navy stepped forward. General Zifa. Please test me too. I also want to join the elite naval training camp and safeguard the justice of the Navy in the future. Please also consider me. I am very powerful and extremely talented in swordsmanship. I will definitely be your pride. In an instant, dozens of Marines stood up and expressed that they also wanted to test. Just you. Zifa's eyelids twitched wildly, and he even felt that he had been insulted. These smelly fish and rotten shrimps, their energy are scattered at first glance, they are ordinary and have no characteristics. Do you want to accept his guidance? Who gave you the courage? But soon, it was Gumal who first discovered the reason. I see. Gumir glanced around again. He discovered that these bastards were the same people who had changed their lives after drinking shabu-shabu wine. After drinking it for the first time, everyone's injuries were healed and their strength increased. Then after drinking it for the second time, they all became swordsmen inexplicably, and everyone was very happy with their swords. And now? As he thought about it, the corners of Gumal's mouth rose crazily. It's not that G2 can't keep these gangsters, it's that the strength of these gangsters has skyrocketed in a short period of time, and they are completely gone. At the same time, Zifa finally couldn't stand a bunch of noobs talking nonsense in front of him. You all get out of here. If I leave the future of the Navy to you. Does this world still have a future? Zifa said angrily, and the Navy cloak automatically moved without wind. The raised corners of Gumal's mouth immediately fell down, as if he saw a demon god appearing in the world, and the days when he was trained appeared in his mind, making him shrink his neck in anger. But those self-recommended naval forces are already too swollen. Now they are despised by Zifa. How can they be convinced? Why do you say that about us? We are all geniuses too. Even this drunkard can pass the test. If you give me a chance, I can too. Is it possible that this brat has a background in the Navy headquarters? Humph. Cheating. 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 In order to gain opportunities for themselves, this group of people were united and shared the same hatred, and they actually held a protest march in front of Zifa. Cheating. 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 The crowd chanted. Not only them, but the rest of the Navy who were just watching also started roaring. After all, he is a brother of a naval branch, so of course he must stand by his family. The scene once became chaotic and out of control. Lieutenant General, do you want me to stop them? I think General Zifa is about to explode. Pen whispered to Gumil. Why did you stop me? Gumir smiled very brightly in his heart. The gangsters who made him so angry in the past are now happy no matter how they look at them. The following is a violation of military discipline. Pen said worriedly. The law does not punish everyone, and the teacher will not use military discipline to punish them. Gumil was old and didn't panic at all. You really don't care. In spite of. Gumir hid behind the troubled Navy, not even giving Zifa a chance to call him. At this time, Zifa finally spoke up. Okay, very good. You are very courageous. Then I will give you a chance to test. Jun. Take these little kids who don't know their weight. Give it all to me. Kill it. Got it. Zifa always spoke with a smile, but towards the back, his smile became crueler. Especially the word kill is very heavy. Yes. Jun said coldly. She was still wondering why she cut the air, but she was so disturbed that she couldn't think at all. My mood is also troubled. Jinpiluo took out his sheath and flashed a half-moon in the sky. Brothers. It's just a major general, don't be afraid. Wealth and honor are ahead, and there is a bright future. We graduated from the elite naval training camp and we are all lieutenant generals. Want to kill us? Humph. Let me show you my increased strength after receiving God's favor recently. Everyone was not polite and drew their swords. All of them looked fierce and confident. The momentum is pretty good. Jun said softly. However, in the next moment, she disappeared from everyone's sight. Knight Spade. A dark blade flashed past. When Jun appeared again, he was already behind everyone. Click. Accompanied by the sound of Jin Pila being sheathed. The people who were so arrogant just now have all fallen. Chapter 25. Why did he learn it? Bang. 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 The sounds of people falling to the ground were scattered. Within the realm of great swordsmen, there is still a huge gap in strength. What's more, these guys who have just reached the threshold of swordsmanship are even more different than Jun. Blood seeped out from under the fallen marine, staining a large area of the square's stone floor red. I won't really kill him. Pen quickly ran forward to check the injury. One after another, their faces showed distress. Don't worry, I have some spare hands. Eat more meat and you will be cured in half a month. Jun said coldly. His eyes were always staring at Gumir. Humph, thank you so much for leaving an extra 2 inches. Gumir said with a straight face. You're welcome. Jun spoke coldly, turned around proudly, and returned to Zifa's side. Lieutenant General. At this time, a colonel lying in a pool of blood had not yet lost consciousness and struggled to reach out to Gumir. There was a clear unwillingness in his eyes. Gumil's face fell even more severely. Teacher Zifa, it was my dereliction of duty that I failed to manage my subordinates strictly, and I am willing to accept the punishment. But Ling Bai passed the test just like this. Not to mention that they were not convinced, I was not convinced either. The entire G2 branch will not be convinced. Gumir's temperament was completely different from before. Perhaps his subordinates were injured and touched certain areas in his heart. At the same time, the Navy who had originally formed a circle stood behind Gumir. Pairs of eyes were staring at Zifa and Jun seriously. The invisible momentum made Jun's subordinates feel tremendous pressure. With Ling Bai as the line, the scene was immediately divided into 2 factions, fighting against each other. Are you going to rebel? Zifa is not weak at all. Instead, he moved his hands meaningfully, looking unmoving. We are the Navy, we will be the Navy for life. But in the face of unfairness, we also have the right to put forward our own ideas. I can ask everyone for you, brothers, are you convinced? Not convinced. Are you convinced? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. After Gumil's incitement, the Navy's emotions were suddenly ignited. Shouts resounded throughout the sky, no one was willing to accept Ling Bai passing the test like this. Humph! This guy Gumir has a very strong ability to unite people's hearts. Zifa muttered in a low voice. How long has it been, and you still have the heart to praise me? I thought you were really angry. Jun whispered. Do I look that happy? Zifa touched his chin. Jun was speechless. He changed the subject and asked, what should we do next? Hearing this, Zifa looked at Jun meaningfully. There is no good way, we can only rely on your ability. He did not give Jun a chance to react. Zifa stamped his feet, and the entire G2 branch shook violently. In an instant, the scene became quiet. Teacher Zifa, force can suppress people, but not people's hearts. Gummel began to sweat on his forehead, but he finished calmly. Zifa was not prepared to entangle with Gummel in words, and snorted coldly. Aren't you G2 unwilling to accept it? Next, I will conduct the third test on Ling Bai. Test content, actual combat, let Jun do it. How about it? As soon as this was said, the Navy of G2 began to discuss. Do you think it's fair? I think it's okay. Anyway, there are still tests. Ling Bai can't just pass it. But if we fight, isn't that brat still lying on the ground? There's no way to fight him. Everyone looked at Ling Bai in unison. From beginning to end, this kid never woke up. But everything that happened here, even the big thing like the confrontation between G2 and the Admiral of the Navy headquarters, has something to do with Ling Bai. The more I look at him, the more angry I get. Me too, I want to beat him up. It's just that this guy who only knows how to drink is still strong, God is unfair. Everyone grumbled for a while, secretly annoyed. At the front of the G2 team, Gumir said, we can fight in real combat, and we can let Jun come, but we must let this kid come awake and fight with real fists and real swords. Fighting while asleep is really outrageous. No problem. You carry the injured subordinates away, and I'll find a way to wake Ling Bai up. Okay. Gumir reached an agreement with Zifa and began to arrange his subordinates to clean up the square. At the same time, Zifa also took his men back to the warship, as if preparing something. Ling Bai was still lying on the ground, completely unrelated to him. A lieutenant colonel was cleaning the area around Ling Bai, and accidentally glanced at Ling Bai. The more he looked at him, the angrier he got, and the more he looked at him, the more blocked his heart became. No, I have to kick this brat, I can't help it. It turned out that he was the one who was beaten to 9,999 Dao power by Ling Bai that day. Looking around, no one looked over. It's now. Swish! Xiao Zhou kicked Ling Bai. However, the imaginary feeling of the kick did not come, and instead the kick hit the empty space. What are you doing? The major kicked Ling Bai again, but still missed Ling Bai. Ling Bai was like a piece of paper. As soon as he kicked forward, the wind carried by his legs would push Ling Bai forward. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't hit the kick. Would you like to kick me again? Suddenly, Gummel's voice came from behind the major. The major trembled and quickly explained, Lieutenant General. No, I just... Stop talking nonsense and kick it quickly, otherwise the people over there will come back later. Gummel urged. Oh. The major nodded repeatedly and quickly kicked him again. In the end, Ling Bai still floated away like a piece of paper and couldn't hit the kick at all. How come? Gummel, who could see clearly, began to breathe quickly and said in disbelief, he actually learned how to draw on paper. What? Is this paper painting? The lieutenant commander was also shocked. He pointed at Ling Bai as if he had a lump in his throat and couldn't find any adjectives at all. After a long while, the major exclaimed, why does he? I also want to know why he is here. Gumir also yelled. The movement of the two people attracted more and more Marines. When they found out what happened, everyone's expressions became more exciting than the last. Why did he learn it? Why? Why on earth? Jesus, are you so blind? Everyone felt that their IQ had been ruthlessly crushed and they were about to collapse. They always thought that Ling Bai only knew how to sleep, but now it seemed that those few minutes of reading were really enough. Grass! Gummel cursed. Finally, he couldn't help but take action himself. The armed color is covered with domineering energy, and the whole body is charged with energy. Gumir? What are you going to do? At this time, Zifa's voice came like a ghost. Chapter 26. Paper Painting Falling Leaves. Zifa's voice was like a basin of cold water poured on Gumir's head. And the murderous intent behind him was like sharp needles, stabbing Gumir's back with pain. Of course I am. Cleaning up the square. Gumil said unhappily without blushing. The movement of his legs changed and he swept through the hall in a circle. Lanjiao autumn wind. The strong wind blows away debris and dust. The square, which was originally very clean, is now even more spotless and extremely clean. Humph. You're only suitable for sweeping the floor. When Zifa came, the navy immediately dispersed. At the same time, Jun's subordinates came over and put down the wine in their arms. From the appearance, it is not the standard wine that G2 often stocks. It has a gold-rimmed silver lid and emerald agate, making it extremely luxurious. Where's Ling Bai? Zifa asked. Here it is. The major pointed to his side. However, when I looked closely, there was no one there. Zifa showed displeasure, and his eyes immediately locked on Gumir. No, don't look at me, he was really there just now. Gumil hurriedly waved his hand to indicate that he was unaware. What were you doing around there just now? Zifa asked. In the... Gumil couldn't think of a reason for a while. Want to do anything? Zifa sneered. Absolutely not. Gumil patted his chest and assured. At this moment, Ling Bai's lingering voice came. Asking you how much sorrow you can have is like not having 2 jugs of wine in your hands. How many things have happened through the ages, but without wine, they are like dogs. How can I relieve my worries? Du Kong is the only one. With a drink in my hand, I have happiness. Listening to these nonsense, everyone quickly looked for Ling Bai. But after searching for a while, I found no trace. Up there. Someone shouted pointing to the sky. Everyone followed the sound and found Ling Bai floating in the sky. Falling leaves. Zifa opened his mouth in surprise. This is a skill that can only be mastered by practicing paper painting to a very high level. Throughout the ages, only a handful of people have truly used paper painting to make falling leaves float. Lieutenant General? Is this also a paper painting? The major asked. That's right. And it's the legendary Luo Ye Piao. Like fallen leaves? So powerful? But where is the weight of a person? Where has it gone? The major was completely at a loss. Gumil also gritted his teeth. Unexpectedly, the Lanjiao he used to get out of the predicament accidentally sent Ling Bai to the sky, and instead made that kid steal the show. This is not a good thing. Teacher? What is falling leaves? Jun asked in confusion. She had also learned paper painting, but had never heard of it. Zifa explained, paper painting is a skill of releasing and borrowing force. As long as you grasp the insignificant wind in the air, and then remove all the forces acting on yourself, even gravity, you can use falling leaves floating. What? Even the gravity is removed? But the gravity is always there. It's just to relieve force, not to make gravity disappear. You have to be good at using your own strength to balance. The gravity on your hands is balanced by the muscles in your hands. The gravity on the abdomen is balanced by the muscles of the abdomen. This is the principle. Zifa explained patiently. Jun felt like he was listening to a fairy tale. It sounds like that, but in fact, to achieve that level requires such a terrifying control. Typical of understanding once heard, but making mistakes once done. It's so difficult. Is it from the 6-style manuscript? Jun asked. That's right. I don't know how the developer came up with it, and it's not very practical, so I didn't teach you. But how did that kid learn it? Zephyr fell into deep thought. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't believe that Ling Bai had learned paper painting, let alone falling leaves. Could it be that he learned it in a dream? Jun said. Zifa looked over and said with a smile, do you believe it yourself? No, I don't really believe it. But he has been sleeping all the time, so this is the only explanation. Jun spread his hands. There is another possibility. Zifa stared at Ling Bai and whispered, didn't he read a book for a few minutes before going to bed? Just those few minutes. Jun couldn't help but exclaimed. How is it possible? I'd rather believe in this possibility. Zifa looked at Ling Bai again. There are too many miracles and too many mysteries about this person. All along, Zifa has never underestimated Ling Bai, and has high expectations for Ling Bai, but every time, Ling Bai can tell him a fact from an angle that he didn't expect. I still underestimated him. Zifa exhaled heavily, and turned to Jun and said, later, you can be a little more serious and help me find out the bottom. Got it. Jun agreed. Since Lian Zhihui has practiced to this level, if you don't pay attention, I'm afraid you can't even kill people. At this time, Ling Bai was floating. Just right, floating in the middle of a pile of wine that had just been brought over. Without saying anything, he directly picked up a pot and opened the lid of the wine. System, identify it. Ding, identification completed, royal court wine, top quality, drinking it will increase your charm, temperament and make your behavior elegant and dignified, it can be stacked. So it's a royal tribute. Ling Bai roughly understood the origin of this wine, it should be the wine drunk by the royal families of various countries. He didn't hesitate and drank it directly. The aroma of the wine full of money and wealth made many navy men drool. Teacher, your method is really useful, and he really woke up. Jun said speechlessly. Drunkards, of course there are ways to deal with drunkards. Zephyr waved his hand and asked the other subordinates behind Ling Bai to retreat. Only a pile of royal court wine and Ling Bai who was sitting there happily drinking were left. The rest of the navy also quickly retreated and kept their distance. Let's start. Zephyr ordered. As soon as the voice fell, Jun drew his sword directly. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Ling Bai in an instant. There seemed to be a ripple in his cold eyes. Peach blossom smile. It was a quick slash. The so-called smile was that the sword light was too fast. Although several swords were slashed in an instant, there was only the shadow of one sword. Hey? What are you doing? Ling Bai raised the wine high. His figure danced like a piece of paper. No, it's totally wrong to describe it as a piece of paper, because paper still has a hard texture, but Ling Bai's texture is more perfect. It's like flying catkins, or like soap bubbles, his figure is ghostly, and he seems to have no mass at all. The conversion between unloading and leveraging force is the ultimate. Zephyr has already spread out his observation haki, and his fists clenched unconsciously. This kid actually has this level of paper painting. Chapter 27. The Ultimate Dodge. Jun attacks, Ling Bai defends. At the beginning, few people could see clearly. But as time went on, more and more people barely adapted to the ultra-high-speed attack rhythm, and were able to catch some clues and see the after-images. So fast. So powerful. I can't see the movements clearly. How many slashes did he make in this instant? 10? 20? No, at least 100. Major General Jun's sword is very fast. But what's more terrifying is that Ling Bai dodged them all. But what surprised everyone was more than that. Jun showed unfathomable strength. He didn't show any signs of fatigue for a whole minute. Not only did the speed of the sword not decrease, but it continued to increase, and the power became stronger and stronger. The slashes that Ling Bai dodged were as powerful as a rainbow, forming a strong wind, as if it had set off a storm, and on the ground, fresh knife marks were clearly visible. Warm-up is over. Ling Bai, be careful. Jun said softly. Hearing this, the surrounding navy officers widened their eyes. He was so fierce just now, but it was just a warm-up. Is this the rank of general? Pen held the sword in his hand with mixed feelings. Although he was already a colonel, one step away from brigadier general, there was obviously a huge gap between him and the real rank of general. Swish, swish, swish. Jun kept changing his moves, with fast swords, heavy swords, thrusts, and upward thrusts. Peach blossoms. Peach red and willow green. The whole garden is full of peach colors. However, no matter how Jun changed, Ling Bai's figure was completely unaffected. Every time a slash came, he seemed to know in advance and always dodged a little earlier. The dazzling attack and impeccable defense made everyone stare at him with their mouths wide open. Jun changed his moves again and erected the golden pira in front of him. His temperament was like a knife, extremely sharp. In a trance, a pink gas fluctuated on Jun's body, forming a phantom like a peach tree. Sword chi into momentum. So serious. Gumir's pupils shrank slightly. In his perception of the color of seeing and hearing, Jun's chi seemed to be materialized. The harmony of man, sword and chi made the color of seeing and hearing see the phantom of chi. This also means that from this moment on, any moves used by Jun will undergo a qualitative change. 1,000 branches of peach tree. Swish! The sound of a famous sword cutting through the air. Thousands of branches spread out on the peach tree. Every branch is a swing, and every peach blossom on the branch is a slash. Gumier asked himself that if he wanted to take this move, he must concentrate. However, Ling Bai's body was like a swimming dragon, flashing between the branches and peach blossoms, grabbing the tiny gap and dodging calmly. In Ling Bai's hands, paper painting became art, an ultimate body movement, an ultimate dodge. In an instant, Ling Bai dodged all attacks again. With a tremor of his hand, he poured the wine into his throat. Such a scene made the navy forget to breathe. Jun, if you can't be faster than the wind, you can't cut that kid. Zifa said. Hearing the sound, Jun changed his moves again. Armament haki covered Kinpala, and the famous sword temporarily turned into a black sword. Black spade flash. Jun performed a strike that exceeded the speed of the wind. The slash completely split the air, and the thrust speed became faster and faster. Kinpala's blade finally arrived one step earlier than the wind generated by the swing of the sword, and slashed Ling Bai. Hit! Jun's eyes burst with brilliance. After so many slashes, it finally succeeded in slashing Ling Bai. Zifa also raised the corner of his mouth. As long as it arrives earlier than any movement, the user of the paper painting cannot use the force in advance, and naturally cannot avoid the attack. He has a deep study of paper painting, and naturally knows that there is a theoretical limit to the dodging of paper painting. However, before the two of them could be happy, they found that Ling Bai was retreating close to Kinpala. He retreated until the end of the power of Jun's move. Ling Bai's body was on the side. Easy to dodge again. And the place where Kinpala had chopped before, not even a trace was left. What? Jun's expression finally couldn't hold back. It was clearly chopped, but it didn't have the effect of chopped. Ling Bai could actually directly use the force of the attack itself. How could he fight? She subconsciously looked at Zifa, but found that Zifa was also surprised. Could it be that this is not a move from the Six Styles original manuscript? Jun subconsciously thought of a new and more powerful paper painting. But this idea was too terrifying, so she immediately rejected it. After all, how long has Ling Bai been exposed to paper painting? And the things recorded in the original manuscript are all the essence of physical skills summarized by the masters who have been immersed in the Six Styles for decades. If a new paper painting is developed in this way, Jun feels that his three views will be overturned. While Jun was thinking, everyone finally had a chance to blink and breathe a sigh of relief. It's over. Is it over? It's so awesome, I feel like a piece of trash. What's the result? Ling Bai seems to have taken a step back. Is he considered a loser? The onlookers were talking very quietly, even some of the inflated navy were discussing in a very low-key manner at this time. Such combat power completely shocked everyone, and no one dared to be presumptuous. Oops, underestimated Ling Bai, I didn't expect this kid to be more slippery than a loach. Gummel was anxious at this time. He could feel that the people in G2 had recognized Ling Bai's strength from the bottom of their hearts, and no one would object even if Zifa announced that Ling Bai passed on the spot. Actual combat is already the last one. At this point, Zifa's 3 tests are all over. Even if he doesn't want Ling Bai to leave, he is powerless. What to do? Gummel kept scratching his head, as if he was going to scratch his scalp. Suddenly, he found that between the dense marks of slashing, the royal wine was intact on the ground. Obviously, Jun still deliberately avoided the wine. Wine. Gummel's mind raced, and he came up with an idea. Major General Jun. Ling Bai looks down on you. He doesn't even use a knife. Gummel sneered. Knife. Jun looked at the sword on Ling Bai's waist, the black knife Minghong. In fact, she had always paid attention to this black knife, but for various reasons, she never found a chance to learn more about it. Maybe Ling Bai doesn't think highly of your swordsmanship. But there's nothing we can do about it, his swordsmanship is really amazing. Gummel continued. Sure enough. Jun whispered. A good knife is only worthy of those who really understand it. Since he has a black knife, Ling Bai must also be a swordsman. However, if you cut the wine directly, I think you should be able to see Ling Bai's swordsmanship. Gummel said meaningfully. Chapter 28. Daliu and Ziwivoliu. Cut the wine. Jun hummed for a moment and understood Gummel's intention. He once had a 4-character comment on Ling Bai, he was addicted to alcohol. And Ling Bai was Jun's favorite drinker. If she directly cuts the wine, she is destroying Ling Bai's most cherished thing. Ling Bai will definitely choose to resist rather than avoid. But to do so would be a bit despicable and contrary to the moral principles of the sword. But on the other hand, she was really curious about Ling Bai's swordsmanship. After all, Zifa said that those 100 swordsmen have a lot to do with Ling Bai. What to do? This is a test after all, and Jun sets his sights on Zifa again. Zifa's eyes were more serious than ever before, and he nodded slightly towards Jun. Ling Bai's paper painting skills have surpassed everyone's imagination, and at this time, Gumir broke the breaking news about his superior swordsmanship. No matter who listens to it, they will look forward to it. And Gumil is still adding fuel to the fire. Jun, you have to work harder. You also know Ling Bai's persistence in drinking. If you slack off, you will be killed instantly. Hearing that he would be killed instantly, Jun couldn't help but hold Jinpira's hand with some strength. Beside Gumil, the rest of the navy were also shocked. What? Even Major General Jun will be killed instantly. Is that boy Ling Bai that powerful? Why have I never seen him show off? Oh, I remembered. Lieutenant General Gumir and Ling Bai fought in the prison cell before. He must have known about it at that time. The Navy members spoke to each other and believed in Gumir's words. For a moment, no one thought it was a despicable act for Ling Bai to take action by destroying the wine. Instead, they regarded it as an opportunity for Ling Bai to show off. After all, before, Ling Bai just avoided, which inevitably made everyone unhappy. Hey, hey, hey! What are you discussing? Don't think I don't know. Do you think I'm deaf again? Ling Bai drank wine with an aggrieved expression, as if everyone here was bullying him. As soon as he raised his hand, Ming Hong took out his sheath, pointed at Jun and said, if you want to compete with swords, just compete with swords. Don't bully liquor, liquor is innocent. As he spoke, he carefully placed the wine behind him, for fear that someone might be causing harm secretly. There are still words in his mouth. These grain wines are cultivated by farmers with hard work, and then brewed by winemakers over time. Don't you feel ashamed to waste the fruits of other people's labor? Everyone couldn't help laughing when they saw Ling Bai's aggrieved look. Is this kid really drunk or pretending to be drunk? His logic is strict, as if we are bad guys. But he is kind-hearted, not bad, not bad. Zifa nodded repeatedly. But there was no intention to terminate the test at all. Jun was also amused by Ling Bai, smiling like a flower, but his momentum kept getting higher. He said to Ling Bai, if I don't force you, how can I make you use the sword seriously? Even if I can't help you, I will use my full strength. After saying that, Jun closed his eyes. The whole person enters a subtle state and is completely isolated from the outside world. That's right. That's it. Just zoom in. A cunning look flashed in Gumil's eyes. Of course he had seen Ling Bai wielding a sword. He was a layman, but even now, his hand holding the sword was weak. And Ling Bai dared to shout about competing in swordsmanship. Once Jun struck with all his strength, Ling Bai would definitely retreat with his sword and end up in failure. When the time comes, follow the trend and incite a little more, so that the actual combat test ends with a loss, then it will be logical and Ling Bai will be left. Teacher Zifa. After all, you haven't mastered the art of swordsmanship, and your eyesight is still a little worse than mine. And you never thought that you just missed this step, which would give me an opportunity. Gumil tried not to laugh. This time, he was absolutely sure that Ling Bai would be defeated. On the other side, Jun's aura has reached its peak, and the pink aura is extremely strong. The Navy with a slightly stronger perception can see that Jun is stronger again. After gathering his momentum, Jun suddenly opened his eyes and assumed a charging posture. While attacking Ling Bai quickly, he was still chanting. Wandering and wandering is a life, singing and dancing is a life, being a soldier is a life, 3 lives are a reincarnation, and flowers bloom at the end of the road. Take the move. Ling Bai. Jun shouted sharply, and on Jinpira, black, grey and pink light flowed rapidly. The secret of peach blossoms, 3 lives 10 miles of peach blossoms. Wow! All people who have awakened to see and hear the domineering energy, no matter strong or weak, see peach trees emerging from nothingness, forming dense peach forests all over the world. But no one found this scene beautiful. 10 miles of peach blossoms are full of murderous intentions, sharp at every step, destroying souls and claiming lives. Ling Bai's figure was instantly submerged in the peach blossoms, and the clanging sounds of metal collisions were like dense drum beats, so frequent that it made one's hair tingle. What's the story of this Jun? I actually realized the secret of swordsmanship. Gumel's mind went blank, and he even put aside victory and defeat. The secret of peach blossoms truly blooms 10 miles apart, just like the end and a new beginning. Such a large-scale killing move is enough to destroy a large pirate group with a bounty of over 100 million in an instant. Moreover, the clanging sound sounded very familiar to Gumir. It should be the sound of a knife striking Ling Bai's bones. He probably won't die, but he is definitely seriously injured. Gumel lowered his head and said, Ling Bai, don't blame me. In the future, I will definitely guide you carefully to make up for it. I still keep that wine flask, and I will also buy the best. I'll make you a pot of wine with my own hands. Gumel is already thinking about the story after the test. However, a voice came from the peach forest. Sing a song with you, please listen to me. Bells, drums, food and jade are not expensive, but I hope I will never wake up after being drunk for a long time. In ancient times, all the sages were lonely, but only the drinkers left their names. The secret of drunkenness, annihilation and eternal sorrow. Swish! One sword. The sky and the earth seemed to dim for a moment, and the sun and moon had no light. Then, there was a flash of black light. The peach blossoms withered, and the peach groves perished, like flying ashes, gone. The flash of sword light was extremely dark in color, but in the eyes of everyone, it was like a slash that cut through the world, becoming the most dazzling thing in the world. However, there was no time for everyone to be shocked. The collision between Jun and Ling Bai, Momoryu and Ziwijiryu was like an explosion, causing an uproar. The stone floor of the square was violently lifted up, and then shattered. Then he was crushed into powder by the sword energy. Not good. Zifa and Gumir said in unison. Zifa instantly covered his arms with armed colors, and his black wrists appeared. In a flash, he stood in front of the onlookers, concentrating on the navy and resisting the aftermath with domineering force. Gumel also immediately put his hands on his waist. Just when I was about to draw my sword, I grabbed it and it was empty. Damn it! Where is my knife? Chapter 29. The future belongs to them. At this critical moment, Gumir found that his knife was missing. I cursed a lot of curse words in my mind, but I didn't have the time to think about it. If we don't stop it, something big will happen. Gumir casually grabbed 2 knives from the waist of the navy next to him and stood next to Zifa. The blade is also covered with armament color domineering, and the seeing and hearing color domineering is reached to the extreme. He just regrets now why he didn't let the G2 people retreat far enough. The impact mainly comes from Jun's haki. Don't use your sword, use your haki to offset it. Zifa reminded. What, is it domineering? Gumir thought it was Ling Bai's slash. But time was running out, and Gumir chose to trust Zifa's judgment 100%. Anyway, they were 2 rotten knives. Gumel threw them away casually, covered his hands with armed haki, and then slightly separated the haki a few inches from his body. Just these few inches made Gumel's forehead covered with sweat. On the other hand, Zifa, who was also a few inches away from his body, was very relaxed. The whole process seemed to take a long time, but in fact, it happened in an instant. Bang! The shock wave hit, and Zifa and Gumir pushed their palms at the same time. The domineering force counteracts the impact, and the originally menacing shock wave disappears. Behind the 2 men, a large number of marines watching the battle seemed to have been drained of all their strength and collapsed on the ground. Many people had tears and snot running down their faces, full of fear. Alive. Survived. I thought I was going to die. I will never watch the excitement again. I will stand at the furthest place from now on. Some marines were so frightened that even if the aftermath was offset, they still refused to stay here and ran away crawling. At this time, the square was extremely depressed and lifeless. Gumir gasped. His armed domineering power is a little weaker. In order to match the intensity of Zifa's domineering power, he used all his strength to hold on. Thank you, Gumir. Zifa put down his hand and said easily. Teacher, you're welcome. Protecting G2's navy is what I should do. After Gumel finished speaking, he was still breathing. No, I mean thank you for introducing Ling Bai to me, and thank you for the suggestion of chopping wine just now, otherwise, I would not have been able to see such a wonderful swordsmanship duel. Zifa kept looking forward. After the dust and smoke cleared, Ling Bai sat in the middle of the only intact stone floor in the square, drinking wine without saying a word. Jun was lying in his arms, with no obvious injuries on his body, but he passed out. That Ling Bai. At this time, Gummel was really dumb and couldn't tell the pain. He couldn't understand how Ling Bai, who was obviously a layman in the art of swordsmanship, suddenly reached a state that even he couldn't understand. Why am I so drunk? I have never heard of any kendo school from ancient times to the present. You won't give up yet. Zifa raised his lips. Ling Bai's move just now gathered all his momentum into the sword, instantly breaking Zaiwen's 10 miles of peach blossoms, and not even a little power leaked out. I have seen such sword realms, and I can count them on one hand. But. No buts, you also know that the standard for passing the actual combat test is to take 3 moves, and now Ling Bai has defeated Zaiwen, exceeding the standard. Could it be that you still want to do it yourself? Zifa smiled. Forget it then. Gummel sighed heavily. He still remembered the attack Nirvana Eternal Sorrow. After weighing it objectively in his mind, Gummel had no confidence that he could take this move. Although I don't use a sword, I have seen a few really powerful ones after all, and I know something after fighting. This time, Zaiwen was anxious and his domineering control was unstable, otherwise he wouldn't have lost so badly. Zifa commented. Jun was a very good student he had taught, and he was even expected to compete for the position of general in the future. Even if he was not as good as Ling Bai, he should not be shocked unconscious. Gummel had a bitter face when he heard Zifa say that his domineering control was unstable. From the beginning to the end, he felt that Jun's domineering was very good and had no flaws, but with Zifa's domineering level, he was indeed qualified to say so. You two are both great swordsmen. You should have gained something from today's battle. Digest it well. Ling Bai, I'll take him away. Zifa said to Gummel. Don't ask for my opinion. Is it still useful for me to talk? Gummel pouted. After all, he is your G2, ha 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 ha. Zifa was in a good mood, patted Gummel's shoulder, and suddenly, sighed again. He said to Gummir earnestly. Gummir, the newcomers are getting stronger and stronger, the navy is like this, the pirates are the same. If we don't work harder, we may be swallowed up by the trend of the times and drowned in the ocean of history. I forced you to win the Navy Competition Championship, and I also want to improve the competitive atmosphere within the Navy. You already have 100 swordsmen under your command. If you teach them well, you will definitely surprise G1 and G5. Gummir nodded repeatedly. In the past few years since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, there have indeed been many shocking newcomers. As time goes by, these old generations will only decline from the peak little by little, but the newcomers are still getting stronger. The future belongs to them. Gummir looked at Ling Bai, finally without any prejudice and personal feelings. He knew that this kid would definitely make a great career in the sea in the future. And G2 is too small for Ling Bai. Waving his hands silently, Gummir left quietly and began to plan how to deal with the Navy competition. Looking at Gummel starting to reorganize the branch, Zifa nodded with satisfaction. Coming to Ling Bai, Zifa sat down and picked up a pot of wine. Boy, can I drink? Of course, don't you still owe me a worship of wine? And these are your wines, I'm not unreasonable. Ling Bai said leisurely. His eyes were always on G2. Looking at Gummel, Pen, and the old soldiers who were once driven away by him, he swept over everyone one by one. Am I leaving? Ling Bai whispered. Zifa took a sip of the wine lightly, looked at him with some admiration, and said, reluctant. He didn't expect that Ling Bai was still a sentimental person. No. I'm just recalling whether there are still guys who owe me wine. Chapter 30. Departure. You boy. Zifa smiled unhappily and took 2 more sips. Wine is a strange thing. People who don't drink don't know why some people are so fascinated by it, while people who drink laugh at people who don't drink for not knowing the taste. As he drank, Zifa remembered the sentence that Ling Bai chanted when he performed the secret of sword skills just now. Bells, drums, and jade are not expensive, but I hope to be drunk forever and never wake up. The saints and sages in ancient times were all lonely, and only drinkers left their names. After savoring it carefully, Zifa felt a sense of the fickleness of the world, and only by expressing his feelings in wine can he express his ambitions. What have you been through? Just like the 10 miles of peach blossoms in Jun, the secret sword skills of all great swordsmen are mostly related to life and perception. Only by glimpsing the truth of kendo from experience can one truly step into the supreme kendo. Zifa naturally knew the story of Jun in the past, but he didn't want to talk about it. Instead, why could Ling Bai, a kid at such a young age, say such a profound poem? The world is fickle, people's hearts are not the same as before, they would rather be drunk than wake up. Ling Bai, are you also disappointed with this era? Zafar murmured, but suddenly woke up. He quickly put down the wine, carefully glanced around, and found that no one was paying attention to this side, then he calmed down a little. But after that, he didn't drink another sip of wine. Zafar never thought that he would start to get drunk and say something he shouldn't say just by accidentally drinking a few more sips. I'm really old. The scene was quiet for a moment. Ling Bai slowly turned his head and said, it's not the wine that makes people drunk, but people who drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk may get drunk after just 1 cup. I just don't know whether it's the strong wine or the human heart that gets drunk easily. Brother, you don't usually have anyone to talk to, right? Ha 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 ha. Ling Bai drank by himself while laughing, and continued to look at the G2 Navy in the distance. Maybe. Zafar heard the hidden meaning in Ling Bai's words, and didn't want to dwell on it too much, so he asked, what about you now, are you drunk? If you think I'm drunk, then I'm drunk, if you think I'm not drunk, then I'm not drunk. I'm free and easy in this world, eternal wine to keep away sorrow. What you drink is wine, what you taste is taste, what you appreciate is life. Ling Bai said, clinking his wine pot with Zifa, don't stop, brother, let's go. This is a tribute from the royal family, it's hard to drink. Zafar picked up the wine, but still didn't drink it, and tried to ask, do you know this is royal wine? But except for the royal family and the senior navy, ordinary people should not have the opportunity to touch it, right? Ling Bai, who are you? Ling Bai turned his head again, wondering, that's not right. In addition to what you said, aren't there Tianlong people? Are you a Tianlong person? Zifa's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He thought of Ling Bai's various identities, but he never thought that Ling Bai was a Tianlong person. How can you insult me? Am I that kind of trash? I, Ling Bai, will never drink alcohol in my life, and I will never be a celestial dragon. Ling Bai was about to make a boast, but was immediately covered by Zifa's mouth. Keep your voice down. Insulting celestial dragons is a capital crime. Zifa regretted why he wanted to take the opportunity to ask questions. People like Ling Bai who are drunk dare to say anything. He then looked around more carefully, and after confirming that no one heard him, he cautiously let Ling Bai go. Tisk, coward. Ling Bai muttered, and then continued. I don't have any status, so I don't have any ambitions. My biggest ideal is to drink all the fine wines in the world, so that I won't live in vain in this world. As for this royal wine, hee, I'm not bragging, there is no wine in the world that I don't know. After saying that, Ling Bai drank the wine pot in his hand, lay down directly, but did not touch other wines. Ever since he drank the divine wine, he always felt that the top wine was not good enough. Ling Bai felt tired and wanted to sleep. No wonder, Ling Bai had never had so many good wines in a short period of time, especially the divine wines one after another. He must have needed time to slow down after drinking so much wine all at once. Who owes me wine? I can't remember. Ling Bai murmured twice and fell asleep. I really envy you. You can sleep as soon as you say. Zifa sighed. Without someone to talk to, Zifa put down the wine pot and waved. Several navy officers came over and carried Ling Bai and Jun onto the warship according to the instructions. Zifa did not stay any longer. The warship set off directly and left the G2 branch. The sun set in the west, and the stars moved. In a blink of an eye, it was already the next morning. Ling Bai woke up from his sleep, and a feeling of discomfort and nausea made him unable to sleep. System, hangover. He shouted in his heart, and the cool feeling swept through his body, and he finally felt better. Sitting up from the bed, Ling Bai's first reaction was to check his body. No handcuffs. No leg cuffs. The bed is very soft, no one is watching, no den mushy. Well, very good. Ling Bai first judged that he was not imprisoned somewhere. He stood up and began to observe the environment. The ground is shaking a little, it should be on the ship, I remember. Zifa tested me. Ling Bai rubbed his temples. He couldn't remember the specific details, but in the blur, it seemed that he and Jun had a sword fight, and then, he really couldn't remember. Touching his waist, the black knife Minghong was still there. But, dare to let me free, it should end with a good ending. Ling Bai nodded seriously, and then he really relaxed. Walked into the cabin and began to wash. After changing into clean and tidy clothes, Ling Bai walked out of the cabin, came to the deck, and took a deep breath of the sea breeze. Gurgle. My stomach started to growl. It was protesting loudly. How long have you not eaten? Ling Bai started to recall again. But the last time he ate was when he was at the G8 branch. Fill your stomach first. Ling Bai took a look at the style of the warship. It was a standard Navy ship. He immediately hummed a little tune and went to the kitchen. Chapter 31. Grouping of Problem Children. Warship Conference Room. Zifa signed the last document and put the pen aside. Opposite him, Jun was sitting on the sofa, already awake and back to normal. Jun, the Navy headquarters will be here soon. I will take Ling Bai directly to the training camp. As for Crane, I ask you to convey my thoughts. Zifa said to Jun. But teacher, for new recruits who have just come to the Navy headquarters, Chief of Staff Tsuruda will personally handle the placement matters before they can report to the training camp. Your behavior is somewhat against the rules. Jun said tactfully. She understood that Zifa didn't want he to come into contact with Ling Bai. I think you misunderstood me. Zifa stood up, took the previously signed document to Jun, and said coldly, I'm just informing you of something, not discussing with you. You. It was rare for Jun to see Zifa being so domineering. But when I think about Ling Bai's situation, it's really special, and I feel helpless. Until now, she has not had the chance to contact he, nor can she take any unauthorized action. Taking the document from Zifa's hand, Jun examined it, his eyes suddenly widened. What? You want Ling Bai to skip a grade and enter the second grade directly? Generally speaking, it usually takes 3 years from entering elite naval training camp to graduating. From the beginning to the present, there has never been a Navy skipping a grade. Even the best people in the training camps such as Sakaski, Porisalino, and Kuzan have completed their studies step by step. Even Zifa himself has said publicly that every stage of the training camp is necessary, and no one is allowed to skip a level for any reason. But now, Zifa is obviously slapping himself in the face. With his strength, do you think it is necessary for him to learn the basics of first grade? But after all, his foundation is not strong, and the first grade will teach the knowledge and etiquette of each country in the world government, which is equally important to the Navy. Do you think he can listen? Zifa said amusedly. Jun didn't answer, and quickly checked several other documents signed by Zifa, all related to Ling Bai. Applying for a warship? Ling Bai is still a corporal, and you want to help him apply for his own warship. Closed training plan? You actually want to apply for a land with a diameter of 2 kilometers in a residential area for training? Isn't this too big? Isn't it? You actually signed the General's blockade order. Not allowing the Navy to spread any news about Ling Bai, this. Reading between the lines, Jun can feel the importance Zifa attaches to Ling Bai. A road to fame that has been accumulated through secret training is gradually unfolding in front of Jun through various documents. Zifa explained, not all of them are prepared for Ling Bai. I have recruited a few guys before. They are all ability users like Ling Bai. I want to form a group with them. It can't be that smoker. He has already told you. Zifa laughed. Why? Jun did hear from Tsuru that one of Zifa's students was a notoriously problematic child named Smoker, who got into a lot of trouble in the first grade. But because it is a natural devil fruit and he has good talent, many punishments were suppressed by Zifa. But now, Zifa also wants to form a team between Ling Bai and Smoker. Don't you think you are too worried about 2 problem children? Jun said bitterly. That's why I need a larger training area to prevent them from causing trouble and hurting others. You are too messy. Jun felt a headache for Zifa, and immediately said, Hey, I will help you submit the application materials, but I can't guarantee whether it will pass. Although Zifa is a general and has many transcendent rights in the Navy, the status of the Navy headquarters is really special, and some of the documents still need his approval. At this moment, a Navy man hurried over. Diao Diao barged in without even knocking on the door. Zifa and Jun looked up and saw the accompanying chef. Is it time to eat? So soon? Zifa asked. No. No. The chef said urgently, the student you just admitted has woken up and is eating in the kitchen now. Let him eat something. If I remember correctly, that kid hasn't eaten for a long time. Zifa said disapprovingly. Eat something. The chef looked horrified, as if he had seen something terrible. He didn't just eat a little. Did you also eat our lunch? That's really a big appetite. Jun said. Wrong. Zifa finally realized the seriousness of the matter and asked the chef, how much did he eat? He ate everything on the boat. The chef said in horror. What did you say? Jun suddenly jumped up from the sofa. Eat everything. Zifa confirmed again. Eat them all. The chef cried sadly. Jun didn't believe it, and walked over and said, we have a month's worth of food on the ship. How could he eat it all by himself? Absolutely true. You should go and see for yourself. After saying that, the chef ran out immediately, followed by Zifa and Jun. The group came to the kitchen and found that many Navy officers had gathered here. In the kitchen, a meat mountain was wiping its mouth leisurely. Finally full. Zifa heard the voice and it was Ling Bai. But at this time, Ling Bai had swelled into a meatball, and his stomach was like a bottomless pit, swallowing a whole month's worth of food on the warship. Such an exaggerated appearance made Zifa and Jun a little bit uncomfortable. However, white smoke came out of the meat mountain, and after a while, Ling Bai shrank again and returned to his normal size. What? The onlookers' eyes widened. Could it be that a month's worth of food was digested just like that? Why are you looking at me? Ling Bai looked at himself, nothing special. Zifa had seen the world after all, so he quickly calmed down and said playfully, they want to ask you. What are you going to eat for lunch? Nothing to eat. Ling Bai looked around and found a huge strange fish in the corner of the kitchen. He asked puzzledly, isn't there another big one? The chef answered first, that's a giant porcupine, it's highly poisonous, I don't know how to deal with it at all. It was something caught by chance and was going to be sold at the Navy headquarters. No one thought of eating it. Oh, it's okay, I'll deal with it. Leave it to me. Ling Bai said confidently. Then he searched in the kitchen again, and finally found a bottle of good cooking wine in the corner. Chapter 32. Treasure Boy. Got it. Ling Bai raised the corner of his mouth and took the cooking wine in his hand. Ding, identification completed. Palace cooking wine, top grade, can enhance digestion ability and improve cooking skills after drinking, can be stacked. If poured on food, it can remove fishy smell and remove toxicity of food ingredients, but the effect is weaker than the divine product. Why is it from the palace again? Ling Bai couldn't help but wonder if this warship had robbed Tian Shangjin once. But since it is a top-grade cooking wine, it is much higher than the medium-grade level of G8, and it will also increase the improvement of digestion ability and cooking skills. Sniffing lightly, Ling Bai took a sip of cooking wine. You stinky boy! Zafar thought Ling Bai was using cooking wine to remove fishy smell and cook. Unexpectedly, he drank it again. When the other Navy saw Ling Bai drinking cooking wine, they felt a chill. Does that thing taste good? I don't know, I've never tried it. I would rather not drink alcohol, and I will never drink cooking wine. The Navy complained. Just now, many of them were deceived by Ling Bai's confident appearance, and even had expectations for Ling Bai's cooking skills. It was ridiculous. Let's find a way to get some edible things in the sea. The most depressed person here is the chef. A good cook cannot cook without rice. He is responsible for the food of the whole ship. It is his fault that there is no food at this time. As for Ling Bai, the body structure of the giant porcupine is completely different from that of the ordinary small porcupine. It is extremely difficult to handle. If you are not careful, the meat of the whole big fish will be highly poisonous. Even I can't handle it, how can this kid do it? The chef didn't have any hope for Ling Bai from the beginning. Just when everyone was about to disperse to find food, Ling Bai rarely put down the wine. Those who leave now, don't blame me for not giving you food. Ling Bai smiled. Tisk. Who wants to eat the food you cook? Even if the ingredients themselves are not poisonous, I'm afraid they will be poisoned by your food. Isn't the food cooked by the kitchen brothers delicious? I'll go to the sea and catch some fish right away. The Navy didn't want to listen to Ling Bai's nonsense at all. What amazing things can a little brat who likes to drink make? Ha ha ha, Ling Bai, I'm not leaving. Zifa laughed loudly, but found a seat at the kitchen bar and sat down steadily. Teacher. You. Jun glanced at the chef on his ship and felt embarrassed. Go and catch whatever you want to eat. Today, I want to eat the giant porgy made by Ling Bai. Zifa said, and he had already pulled out a pair of chopsticks and a small bowl from the side. Hey! Jun really couldn't figure out Zifa's routine, so he comforted his chef and said, you guys go prepare the ingredients for lunch, leave this to me for now. The chef himself was a lieutenant, and it was not easy for him to comment on the Major General and the Admiral. He nodded unhappily and left with the other navy. After everyone left, only Ling Bai, Zifa, and Jun were left in the kitchen. You're in luck. Ling Bai caught the giant agouti on the chopping board, and the relevant cooking knowledge naturally emerged in his mind. Our great chef, hurry up, I'm hungry. Zifa also cheered. Only Jun was left, sitting next to Zifa a little depressed. When they were in the training camp, they had eaten a lot of poisonous food to train themselves to tolerate poison. Now even if they eat a little poison, it would be nothing to the two of them. Being poisonous is a trivial matter. What makes Jun depressed is that Zifa is too indulgent towards Ling Bai. Is it possible that he really believes that Ling Bai is an all-powerful treasure boy? Swish! Suddenly, a sword flashed. Ling Bai pulled out the black knife Minghong from his waist and split the agouti in half. What? You want to use a black knife to cook? Jun just sat down and suddenly jumped up. The bones of the giant agouti are hard, and the spines are many and dense, so they need extremely sharp blades. If you are willing to lend me Jinpai Lao, I can do without Minghong. Ling Bai said with a smile. No borrowing. Jun sat back down angrily, looking very unhappy. That is a black knife, the best blade that all great swordsmen want to own. It is not a kitchen knife. It is a waste of money to use it for cooking. Knives are meant to be used. If they are not sharpened regularly, they will rust and rot. Black knives will also become ordinary knives. Ling Bai said this, but his hand movements were not slow at all. He slapped the agouti with extremely flexible hands, not caring about the hard thorns on the agouti at all. Then he seemed to have found a certain point, his eyes suddenly burst with light, and he drew a circle on the agouti with the black knife. With one stroke, one pat, and one take, a complete liver was taken out by Ling Bai. Good! Zifa couldn't help shouting. The whole process was smooth, with no delays at all. This skill alone is enough to show his cooking skills. You really know how to handle it. Jun was also shocked. Giant agouti dolphins are found in the deep sea and are highly toxic in the liver and slightly toxic in other parts of the body. In addition, the bones of this fish are different from ordinary fish. If you are not careful, your liver will be scratched, making the whole fish inedible. Now that Ling Bai has removed the complete liver, he has completed the most difficult step. How is it possible? Jun still couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. Next, Ling Bai did not speak, but dealt with it seriously. With a slap on the table, the agouti bounced up, countless swords flashed, and the fish fillets, as thin as cicada wings, fell into the plate in an orderly manner. Although he was just cooking, Jun could see his extremely high swordsmanship skills. That's amazing! Jun couldn't help but praise. What makes her even more strange is that despite his extremely high swordsmanship skills, she actually feels that Ling Bai's movements are extremely elegant, and every move he makes appears to be impeccable. Ling Bai, you still said you have no identity. On the side, Zifa also noticed that Ling Bai's movements were very stylish, his eyes were like a fire, and he said, this kind of temperament revealed from the bones can only be developed by being among the nobles and royal families for many years. You can't deceive me. Hey! It's hard to give up on natural beauty. Naturally, Ling Bai would not say that his charm increased a lot because he drank the royal wine. Instead, he handed over a whole plate of sliced agouti. The first dish of lunch, agouti sashimi, please try it.